Not a moment ago, we're back in business here at Shelsley.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Shelsley Walsh Speed Hill Climb here in Worcestershire. We're underway for 2020. Different times indeed that we've had here in these this year, but we are underway and we are hill climbing, and it is down to Alan Broom to be the first competitive runner here at Shelsley Walsh in 2020. It is our 115th year of running here at Shelsley Walsh. We're here in the Team Valley, we're here in Worcestershire, and we are underway for our summer spree weekend. 2 one-day meetings put together, and this is of course the first of those one-day events that we've got going on, and this is our live stream that we've got being broadcast to you live here from Shelsley. And myself, Toby Moody, I am in Vox Villa, the position where the commentary position used to be even before the war, and it's still here today. And normally we'd have Eddie Walder positioned in the crossing commentary position, but actually he's at home. He's probably about 40 miles away at home near Coventry. But through the technical abilities and wizardry of our friends and colleagues and Rich Danby and Al Rayner, we've managed to hook Eddie up. Eddie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Toby. This is all very exciting, isn't it? And another bit of a Shelsley innovation, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely. The view that we've got of our cameras positioned up the hill from the start line, the paddock, the regular kind of view that you would have at your crossing commentary position, and then through the S's and then up towards the finish line. We've got it all covered, and we've got all the splits. Arguably, we've got even more data and more information for spectators and fans of Shelsley Walsh watching on this live feed than they would have even if they were trackside. But of course, we're unable at the moment to have spectators trackside here at Shelsley. We're working on getting people into Shelsley at our other weekends that we've got lined up this summer. Please let us just get through this weekend and make sure that we can have a safe weekend for all of our competitors, and then let's see what we can do in a couple of weeks time or 3 weeks time for our VSCC meeting, our Reg Phillips Trophy meeting, and then the main August Shelsley meeting that we'll have on the 15th and 16th of August. Now, we've already had 4 cars get to the top of the hill. Alan Broom in a 45.8, Chris Wright in a 44.8, Paul Howard in a 46.8, and Chris Bufton in a 47.3. This is Chris Westwood. He is in the Lotus Elise, and the next car about to leave the line is Ollie Wright in a Peugeot 106 GTI 1600. Quick car, Eddie.
Yes, local lad, Ollie Wright, of course, and shares it with his girlfriend Anna Furness, and he's already up past the Kennel Bend into the crossing. This classic blind bend through that little kink, which is actually called S approach, and he's into the S's now. And he gets to the S's in a time of 22.67 at 80 miles an hour. Over the drain cover and up the finish straight. And Toby.
Yeah, he's going to make his way towards the top. He was here at the Members' Day last weekend, and he did a late 35. A little bit slower here today because it's a little bit damp after some terrible rain that we had during the second batch of practice this morning. Howard Davies with the Alfa Romeo GT V6. Not the Howard Davies who used to co-drive for Gwyndaf Evans in the British Rally Championship, but Howard Davies nonetheless. He's making his way through the S's and he'll be on his way.
So Howard approaches the finish, and he stops the clocks in a time of, well, it's into the 40s, 42.71 for Howard Davies.
Simon Dudfield now with the Lotus Elise, second Lotus that we've seen here in our runs this afternoon at Shelsley. Aluminium chassis car. The early chassis were actually constructed in Worcester. The hydro-aluminium place, I went to visit it some years ago, and hugely bristling with technology and robots and such like. Simon Curtin now on his way with the Lotus XE, Jeddy.
Yeah, so Simon Curtin already through the Kennel Bend. We'll see him come into crossing. Just a couple of spectators who are supporting people who are competing this afternoon, standing there on the hill. And Simon Curtin into the S's at a speed of 77, fair speed that one, over the edge of that famous drain cover, along the finish straight, and it'll be over to Toby to tell us about Peter Ash.
Peter Ash coming towards the Kennel Bend, 38.99 for Simon Curtin. Well, they're not really spectators. Each driver is allowed one person to come with them, whether or not they are a friend, a wife, family member, a mechanic to help them out. And, of course, there's some other people who may not yet be driving. We've got 4 batches to run through for these first class runs, and then we'll run those 4 batches again. So everybody gets 2 runs this afternoon, and it'll be the best time that goes forward that will position you in your class. Peter Ash on his way towards the top of the hill with the yellow Griffith, 40.15.
And James Allen McFarlane in the Porsche Cayman, already up at bottom S, and he gets there at a speed of 67 miles an hour.
He's on his way. Good to see some comments coming in from people watching on our YouTube stream. James Black, if you're looking for an entry list online, it is on shelsley-walsh.com. You go to the news page, and it is the story at the top of the news page that concerns the live stream. If you click that, then there is a couple of PDF downloads that you can have for the entry list for today, Saturday, and then tomorrow. Anthony Brown gets towards the top of the hill in his Audi TT, 38.05. Bob Penrose in the Porsche Cayman. I was standing trackside when this left the line for his second practice run. It's quick Cayman S that Bob has got here, and it was very impressive when it rushed past me. Maybe it's going to be even quicker for the next car on the line. Richard Etheridge with the Subaru Impreza. It's a 2.5 litre turbo. Familiar flat 4 growl from the car as it already disappears out of my view. But of course you can watch it with this live stream as he comes up towards Crossing Bend where Eddie would normally be.
Yes, he's gone past this position and into the S's goes Richard Etheridge at 76 miles an hour. So yeah, very familiar sound from the flat 4 in these Subaru cars. A bit of a beat to it, a bit of an uneven exhaust note, and through the finish line goes Richard Etheridge in a 37.82.
37.82. Graham Godfrey now with the Audi TT, an early Audi TT. They've probably been on the roads about 20 years now. This 1800 turbo convertible. That's quick. That's cracking on as he goes through S approach at 77 miles an hour. Impressive.
And away from the start line is Rick Leddy.
Yeah, this is going to be even quicker, Eddie, than even the previous TT. It's
this
2.5
is the 5-cylinder, 5-cylinder, 30-valve, turbocharged, all-wheel drive. Very, very quick. Rick is a relative newcomer to hill climbing, but he's certainly taken to it in this particular car very, very quickly indeed.
Don't forget, you can watch us on Facebook, on our Shelsley Walsh Facebook page, or our Shelsley Walsh YouTube channel. Those are the 2 places that you can watch our live stream this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon. So keep in touch. Thank you, Eleanor Taylor. You're watching on Facebook. That's great to have you joining us. As the next car leaves the line, it's Will Goff.
Our long-term class sponsor, Will Goff, through his Will Hire concern if we had a programme, they would have an advert in there. And quite famous around the Black Country is a man who worked with Sykes generators in the plant business. And he looks after some of the publicity for Lowton Park Hill Climb these days. Been around forever, Will Goff. Very, very experienced guy.
Rob Kavanagh now with the Porsche 964 Carrera RS. Nice car that. The Sierra Cosworth is already making its way towards the top of the hill. What are Sierra Cosworths now? They're thick end of 35 years old, aren't they? 44.42 for the Sierra Cosworth. The Porsche Carrera on his way through S approach. 6 miles an hour faster, 70 miles an hour. This is going to be quick. Oh, and he's fluffed the start. Steve Barnard, it lurched forward and then he had to dip the clutch again. Well, maybe not a clutch because it's a semi-automatic gearbox, of course, but he's going to be kicking himself.
EDK, yes. Now, Steve Barnard is a change of car and class. So this is a Nissan GTR, 3.6 litre turbocharged V6. He is not in his familiar and regular Audi TT hot rod. Short circuit hot rod.
Barnard, even with a fluff start, 37.51. John Goodreds with the S3 Audi. Quickish start, 2.34. A little bit quicker to Kennels, already through crossing on his way up towards S approach as we speak. So the quickest run we've had so far in these runs has been Rick Leddy. Rick Leddy with the Audi TT RS. That was the black 2.5 litre car. But this is Helen Evans with the ultra-rapid 911 Carrera. And shares this car. And it goes very, very quickly indeed. Full stop, this car.
Yeah, shares it with Andy Norris, who's, of course, has been campaigning the car for the best part of 20 years.
Helen on her way to the S's.
Craig Spooner.
At 64. Craig Spooner, as you say, Eddie, on his way. A little bit quicker for that first 64 feet, but not quite comparing apples with apples, a Porsche to a Westfield, are we?
No, Craig is now sharing today a slightly different Westfield. And he's sharing it with Graham Frankland, who regularly competes in this car. So Craig's yellow Westfield is hors de combat this weekend for unknown reasons. And Craig Spooner goes through the finish in a satisfactory 36.5.
Time for number 751. Craig Spooner be showing that car with Graham Frankland. We'll see that car again. 36.50. 89 miles an hour over the line for Craig Spooner there. Still best time at the moment is still Rick Leddy's black Audi TT RS, the 2.5 litre 5-cylinder. That's quickest at the moment, but we have got some single-seaters coming up at in a few moments' time. A few single-seaters that are dual-driven to with the likes of Lindsay Summers, Mark Lawrence with the OMS, Alan Warburton, Bernard Kevell, and Lynn Owen in the brand new OMS 28 with a 2.7 litre V8 mounted in the back of it. Lynn and Steve driving the car here today. So let's have a look at our first single-seaters of the 2020 season at Shelsley Walsh. It's Lindsay Summers. She is coming to the line now in the DJ Firehawk 1070cc engine in this 1100cc class. Record, of course, held by Robert Kenrick in a 24.79 seconds, which won't be troubled today with these conditions. Lindsay on her way, kisses the grass out of kennel and up towards crossing.
Yeah, so here's Lindsay Summers, and this is the one and only space frame DJ Firehawk, built for a customer who didn't particularly want carbon fibre. And Lindsay into the S's now at a speed of 88, going pretty quickly. Up the finish straight goes the local lady competitor, and she will finish in a time of 31.82.
107 miles an hour over the line. Next, coming to the line is another single-seater. It's into the 1600cc class. Alan Warburton. Warby coming to the line and getting ready to leave it in a moment's time. This is the Gould GR59, small svelte chassis, 4-cylinder motorcycle engine that's been bored out, traction control, pops and bangs and squeals as it disappears out of my sight up towards the crossing bend.
Yeah, the almost legendary Alan Warburton, of course, who shared with any number of hill climb champions, including Martin Groves and David Grace, both former record holders here. And Alan goes over that infamous drain cover, hits the gas, leaving the top S, and he'll be through the finish any moment now. 31.45, Alan Warburton.
111 miles an hour over the line. Mark Lawrence now in the 1000cc OMS. The black car with the green paintwork leaves the line. Lots of traction control. Does the first 64 feet in 2.59 seconds. Needs to be a little bit quicker than that, but he's already out of kennel. Going up towards crossing. The blind left-hander. Little bit of damp still on the racetrack, but no problem at all. It'll be a little bit cool for those tyres. They won't have as much grip as normal, but he still approaches the S's at 95 miles an hour. Already out of top S. Time to beat from Warby, 31.45. Time to beat of Lindsay Summers, 31.82. 32.47 for Mark Lawrence.
And here's Bernard Kevill on the start line in an OMS 28 of some 3 years vintage. This one with a Suzuki-based V8 in the back end. So it's a Terry Davis engine. It's the one-off Suzuki-based version. Bernie just pulling his visor down. He's ready to roll. Can't see whether he's got a green light yet, but he's on the chock and he's ready to leave.
I wonder if there's a problem with him trying to get it in gear. No problem at all. It's all underway now. And he does the first 64 feet in 2.38 seconds. Bernard Kevill used to be in the 1100cc class. We used to be competitors together when I was in that class as well. Already through crossing and already through S approach at 103 miles an hour for the V8 2.6 litre powered OMS. The new OMS, is, by the way, will be the next car coming up the hill. That's in the shape of Lynn Owen driving. Bernard Kevill in the meantime, time 29.85.
So Lynn Owen on the start line. Her husband Steve has been building OMS racing cars for well over 30 years now and has built some 180 or so chassis. Most of them single-seaters, a few sports cars in amongst there. OMS is all around the world. The Australian hill climb champion for 3 years on the trot has driven an OMS 28 chassis.
Well, Lynn makes her way towards
Lynn
the
Owen
at 81 miles an hour, Eddie. And, you know, apart from a wet shakedown that they did at Kerbera about 4 months ago,
yes,
this is essentially the first time that this car has been in action. So take it steady, don't do anything silly, is what Lynn was telling me during the lunch break. And she's done just that, hasn't she?
Yeah, 34.99 her time.
34.
A satisfactory start to this truncated season.
Yes, well, you know, we were supposed to have 7 weekends here at Shelsley in 2020, but actually we're going to have 6 competitive weekends. We are here this weekend, and in a fortnight's time we've got August the 8th being the VSCC meeting, August the 9th being our Reg Phillips Trophy meeting. Both those days pretty well full. Normal Championship Shelsley in August, August 15th and 16th. We've got entries available for those days. Go to shelsleywalsh.com, and if you look across the top of the page you can see competition. Drop that down and you can enter online. Everybody does nowadays, and you can assure yourself of a slot for Big Shelsley in the middle of August. We've got a brand new meeting at the end of August, August Bank Holiday, 29th and 30th. That has got some spaces in it, and we've got some new different kind of runoffs throughout the season as well. And they're not just runoffs for the fastest people on the day. We've got a runoff, we've got a tin top 10. So you can only get in the runoff if you've got a roof over your head. We've got an MAC Sunrise top 10. We've got spaces available for people who have never competed at Shelsley before. So we're giving them preferential treatment in the queue for entries at some of our meetings. A brand new other weekend is the Harvest Festival weekend, September the 12th and 13th, and then our regular autumn speed finale the weekend after, September 19th and 20th. It's all on ShelsleyWalsh.com.
And of course, as you say, we're taking fresh registrations for our Sunrise Championship, which is now a sprint and hill climb championship for 2020. So far we saw in class. Yeah, go ahead.
We've got all sorts of clips to show you in the at the end of batches. Some batches they come back very quickly, so we'll be running through things. But what we've also got is your comments through Facebook and also through our Facebook and our YouTube pages. Where are you in the world? Where are you watching? Rosemary Hart, you're not far away. You're probably within earshot. Fortunately, unfortunately for you, we are unable to have spectators. It's very difficult, I know, but trust us, here at the MAC, we're working hard to see what we can do for 3 weeks' time. Wish I was there, says Rosemary. We wish you were here, and you will be before the end of the year. Just let us get through this meeting and make sure that we can run it safely and smoothly, and then everything will get to a little bit more normality.
Yes, Rosemary is only the other side of the valley, of course, over in Shelsley Kings, not very far away at all.
Johnny Red, a friend of Shelsley Walsh and a member of the Midland Automobile Club. He regularly stands underneath the commentary box at Crossing, and he is watching, I believe, from Worcester. So,
yeah, feeds me bits of information when we're there during the weekend.
Mark Christopher,
goes off and
thank you for
fetches me
sharing
stuff.
today.
Yeah.
Can't wait till we can be back on the hill. A comment through Facebook there. So thank you for helping out and watching the feed. So we've also got some Adrian Mudge breaking up the journey. So you're actually watching in a car, are you, Adrian Mudge? Thank you very much to Rich Danby, who's been working so hard to get these camera angles, the feed, the link up with Facebook, the link up with YouTube. He's done a super job. Rich, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's. I think he's had a couple of sleepless nights along the way, getting all of this ready, but it's working smoothly now.
We've got 4 batches.
Adrian Mudge is.
Sorry, Eddie, we've got 4 batches, and this is our second batch. So this is Robert Pallett, car number 42. We're into the road cars up to and over 1700cc. So we've got 3 entries in this class, have we?
Yeah.
Robert Pallett on his way.
This is a Rover V8 powered Ginetta G33. And Rob Pallett into the S's now at an approach speed of 76 miles an hour. And heading up the finish straight now goes Rob Pallett, and Toby will tell us about George Newrick any moment now.
Yep, Pallett's time, 38.35, Eddie. George Newrick, a little bit quicker by the time he got to Crossing Bend. He's already going through the S approach. Speed trap there, has been there since as long as I can ever remember, 77 miles an hour. The quick cars in the British Hill Climb Championship, the single-seaters are touching well over 130, 135 miles an hour by the time they get on S approach. George Newick's time, 37.41. Dave Moore next.
All the way up from Saltash down there in Cornwall. The other side of the Tamar from Plymouth. And this is a very stretched Pinto engine under the bonnet. 2.2 litres, and away from the start line, very familiar face of Nigel Elliott in the very, very short wheelbase twin turbocharged Triumph TR7 V8.
That is what you define as a handful. I don't think there are gloves made big enough to hold that thing in a straight line. Nigel Elliott was a little bit squirrely when he came past me, Eddie.
It changes ends very, very easily because it's almost as wide as it is long. Bit of a handful, but he's tamed it.
Andrew Norris now on the way. This will be a quick run, ladies and gentlemen. He really leans on it, doesn't he? 12.4 to crossing. S approach coming up. Got that car really leaning on the suspension. 84 miles an hour on S approach for the very, very quick Porsche 911. Always quick off the line. Look at it. 1.93 for the first 64 feet. And the 911 RSR of Paul Howers, 2.14 for the first 64 feet. Time 33.34 for Andrew Norris by the time he gets to the top of the hill. We're getting quicker, Eddie.
Yeah, these two Porsches hardly roll at all. They've got a great deal of resistance across the chassis. And Paul Howes going out of the S's right now, away from the start line. Local lady and horse lady and dog groomer Anna May Furness.
Car for the second time today that we're seeing go up the hill. We saw it a moment ago in the hands of Ollie. He came to the Members' Day last weekend. He did a late 35. Anna May Furness on her way. Jerry Neary, good to see him here at Shelsley in 2020. 2.38 for the first 64 feet. In the meantime, Anna May is getting towards the top of the hill. I can see her with one of the little pictures I've got here in the commentary box. 39.95. Jerry Neary, though, crossing the speed trap at 72 miles an hour on S approach. Car number 51. This is the modified specialist production cars.
So here's Graham Franklin. We saw the car a little earlier in the hands of the sharing it as a one-off this weekend, Craig Spooner. So this is Graham, the car's actual owner. And on the start line is the somewhat bizarre all-wheel drive AMS Mattia of John Pick. Very well-known automotive industry engineer is John.
And it leaves the line in 2.22 seconds, does the AMS. It whooshes and it whooshes its way up. I don't know what else to say. It's quite something when it gets in full canter. And it's doing just that now as it approaches the S's at 80 miles an hour. Simon Jenks is the next car up with a little Caterham 1600. That's equally as quick. Yeah. So we're getting quicker and quicker, car by car here at Shelsley. Whoa, all the road is used by John Pick as he gets to the top of the hill in 35.08. Next up, Simon Jenks.
Now Simon Jenks is, if you like, he's seeded to win this class. Fully expected to. Will he? We'll find out a little later on, but this is the first of his two timed shots today in the car. He's always very, very quick. Regularly comes up against other drivers such as Steve Day and Ash Mason in a normal hill climb season. And you don't get stranger than a curved screen 1302S Volkswagen Beetle driven by Jim Collins, with a Porsche engine in the back, of course.
31.92 for the Caterham of Simon Jenks. Collins on his way. Jenks did 89 miles an hour on S approach. The Beetle Porsche, the Porsche Beetle, 74 miles an hour. He takes 24.88 seconds to the bottom of the S's. The sector between the bottom of the S's to the exit of the S's, 11.45. And then his total elapsed time will be completed on the right-hand side. 38.82, Eddie.
Yeah, good time for him. And pressing on with these classes now, here's Graham Beale in the Ginetta G33. This should be a quick run, and of course Ginetta still exists. Run at Le Mans, run prototype cars these days. And away from the start line, David Bickley, one member of a father and son duo. David in the sports racer Radical, and his son we will see in a Jedi a little bit later. In fact, Stuart, his son Stuart, is on the start line right now. There's a bit of a coincidence for us. So Stuart Bickley on the start line as his son gets underway in his 1 litre Jedi. If you like, the original high volume motorcycle powered single seater, both circuit racing and hill climbing and sprinting, of course. Used to run as 600cc engines as Formula Honda going back a few years. And over the finish line goes Stu Bickley in a time of 29.42. Former Kerberer best time of the day holder, of course, at one of our meetings last year.
102 miles an hour when he crossed the line there. Next up is Mark Slater with the Jedi. 2.6 seconds for the first 64 feet. Remember that if you break 2 seconds, you have an acceleration of more than 1g in the forward direction. Mark Slater, I think, was bedding himself in this morning, finding his way with this car, with this hill, with the conditions. 67 miles an hour on S approach for Slater in the Jedi. Finding the grip, using the inside line of top S and finding his way towards the top of the hill. He will get there with the motorcycle-powered car in 38.57 seconds. No shortage of speed though. He did 98 over the line. So that was all well and good. Where are you watching around the world? Some people watching from Guernsey, like Sarah Gordian. Sarah, great to have you watching here the Shelsley coverage.
Former single-seater driver Sarah Gordian, and former ladies hill record holder at Val d'Isère.
So there you go. There you go.
There are Godians everywhere on Guernsey.
We've obviously, Eddie, got a lot of people watching from Worcestershire. There's a large membership of the Midland Automobile Club around this area. People watching from the south of France, people watching from Portugal as well, as we have got the 2015 British Hill Climb champion coming to the line. Yeah. This is Alex Summers, ladies and gentlemen. And he's come
using
very
a fresh
wide.
Piece of tarmac.
Yeah, because he was very quick off there this morning and he leaves the line. This will be a quick run. 1.98 seconds for the first 64 feet. A champion's drive already. Alex Summers in full flow with the DJ Firehawk 1070cc. We saw it a moment ago in the hands of Lindsay. S approach 111 for an 1100 is cracking on. Out of top S. Up towards the top of the hill. He's going to easily smash 30 seconds. Alex Summers does a time of 26.97.
Oh, blisteringly quick. On the start line now, Harry Pick. You saw his dad in the AMS Mattia. Here comes Harry. The first guy I ever saw go to a British Hill Climb Championship awards dinner with stitches in his forehead after an accident playing rugby during the day. Here's Harry Pick taking the space frame OMS 3000M into and out of the S's, avoids the drain cover, pins the throttle going up the finish straight, and Harry Pick through the line in a time of 28.74, finish speed of 101.
Andrew Short now leaves the line, 2.2 seconds for the first 64 feet, gets the power on, gives it a bit of a feather lift, one could say, for crossing. Then through the top left-hander, he goes through there at 92 miles an hour and already into the S's for the OMS. We're into the 1600s with this car. On his way out of the S's, your eyes adjust with the sunshine, and then he makes his way towards the top of the hill.
Local driver Rob Anscombe lives only a few hundred yards away from the bottom of the hill. And a fairly newcomer, should we say, into single-seater racing. This is the ex-Works OMS Hornet that used to be competed by the Owens themselves about 10 years ago. Didn't have the side pods then, of course.
The lightweight version.
Up through the finish.
Okay, this will be a quick run, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dave Warburton. 2.31 for the first 64 feet. David was a top 12 runner last year. He did a 24.84 in August last year. Can't see him getting down to a 24.8 here today. It's a little bit cooler, it's a little bit damp in some places, but he's certainly going to be knocking on the door. What can he do to see if he can get down to Alex Summers's 26.97? 27.94 for David Warburton. That's interesting. 113 miles an hour on this approach and also across the finish line. Simon Andrews up next, Eddie.
Yep, Simon Andrews, the car restorer from the Pershore area, quickly away from the start. He's through the Kennel Bend, already up with the crossing, which is a blind bend between two very high grassy banks. Through the little kink, which is S approach, and into the bottom S goes Simon at an approach speed there of 106. He's already pinning the throttle along the finish straight between the sleeper walls and over the finish line in a 29.21. And here's the OMS master himself, Steve Owen. They are OMS, his initials backwards.
Yeah, he's on the line. We saw the car a moment ago with wife Lynn, but Steve now having his chance to attack Shelsley. It's dry, but all for a couple of little patches in front of the commentary box here. A little bit of traction control. Underway smoothly through Kennel. Nothing to worry about. The buzzards soar over his head. Not that he'll have a chance to see them. Already through crossing and up towards the S approach at 91 miles an hour, Eddie.
Yeah, he's already between the S's and he bends the throttle pedal out of top S, straight up and through the finish line. Now goes Steve in a 30.34. He's in the 30s, 30.34. Oh, now on the start line, Sean Gould, number 7 in the last British season in 2019.
This is
Hill
the brand
record
new
holder at Lowton Park.
Yes, and at Prescott as well. This is the brand new Gould GR59. It's got a 4-litre Judd V8 in the back of it. And Sean was on course for a 22 last year, but for a problem that befell him in the runoff. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the very latest of hill climb technology. This is a 160 mile an hour motor car, 700 horsepower. Sean Gould leaves the line in 2.13 seconds. And he's already going up through the S approach, Eddie, at a speed of 120.
Kisses the track at the kink. He's already through the S's. Rockets up the finishing straight. And it's a 26.5.
26.5 for Sean Gould. That is the marker. 26.50. 139 miles an hour when he crossed the finish line. Still not perfect traction, but next up it's the 3-time British hill climb champion. It's Trevor Willis in the 3.2 litre V8, the PowerTech powered OMS. He's done a very early 23 here when the sun is shining. It's not quite as quick today, but is today going to be Willis versus Gould? Let's find out.
Yeah, Trevor already out of top S. Drifts over to the left. And he's through the finish line already. 26.32, so quicker than Sean Gould.
26.32 for Trevor Willis. He did a speed of 131 miles an hour over the line. That's the difference between the Gould and the Willis OMS. The Gould has the power and it has the straight line speed, but the OMS of Trevor Willis doesn't necessarily have the straight line speed, but it has some agility that is its advantage through the S's. Dave Nursey now on the hill. He did an S approach of 65 miles an hour with the MG BGT V8 that he's sharing with Philip Stadler here today. So Dave's taking it up and Philip will take it up in a minute. Guest driver Dave, 41.96 seconds. Whew.
He's going to be fairly happy with that, I would say. Yeah, it's a throaty car, that one, and plenty of grunt. A couple of Healey's on the start line, so now we've seen our quick single-seaters. We're moving into some of the historic classes and one makes. So Austin Healey's, MGs.
We've got all sorts
Welsh
of cars coming
Hill
up.
Climb Championship.
And Philip Mudderman, you're watching from Guadamar in Spain, and you're enjoying it. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching our Shelsley feed here this afternoon. Ken Ross, you're watching while bleeding the clutch under my GTM coupe. Jonathan Webster, watching from Cheshire.
A tight fit. That'll be a tight fit. They're not very big, are they? Those what used to be called a Cox GTM.
Paul Rollings, nice to hear Shelsley Walsh Hill Climb from my garden again.
Ah. Yes, he's a familiar name, isn't he? Paul. Just lives just along the valley there.
Laura Wardle, good afternoon. Good to see that you're watching us through our Shelsley Walsh YouTube channel. Wish we could have been there. We wish you could be here, Laura, but just give us 2 or 3 weeks and then we'll work some things out. It's not as easy as it looks on a picture like that, or it's not as easy when you think that Silverstone and Brands Hatch have spectators. Of course, our spectator path up the side of the hill is quite narrow, and there's only one way up and there's only one way down, so we've got to work out how we do it. That's the pinch point for spectators coming here to Shelsley. So if you could just bear with us for a couple of weeks, then we'll see how it all pans out.
So of course, Toby, Laura Wardle, 35 years sharing the Porsche Carrera with Jonathan Williamson. In fact, I was so impressed by that news that I bought them a pair of Porsche cakes, which we presented to them at Prescott last year.
Was the icing in the back of it?
It was, yes. It was a. I don't know where the lady that made the cakes for us, Dave Warner's wife, Cheryl. I don't know where she got the mould from. It really was a pair of Porsches. But 35
friend of Shelsley
years,
Walsh.
that's dedication.
Friend of Shelsley Walsh, Scott Bevis. I spoke to him this morning. He's in the south of France. He can almost see the Mediterranean from, I'm sure, his rooftop. He says, great to see action at Shelsley again. My cap is doffed to the Shelsley team. Spent many, many years at Shelsley with his father, who of course was Paul Bevis. He campaigned the Fairley Mercury for 25 years. Manu Tis, Servus, grüß dich. Watching from Deutschland near Hockenheim circuit. Manu, Servus, Habedieri. Rob Pack is also watching through our Shelsley Walsh Facebook page. Rob is going to be competing here tomorrow. So lots of people tuning in from wherever they are around the world. Good to see you. Good to see you watching. We've also got some other events at Shelsley this year, so let's catch up with what is available if you're a competitor.
We've been working hard at Shelsley Walsh to get hill climbing back on track in 2020. Other competitive meetings we have at Shelsley Walsh this year include the VSCC Day on August the 8th, with a few spaces remaining for entries, while we're full for the Reg Phillips Trophy meeting the day after. The regular August Shelsley on 15th and 16th of August is filling up day by day, but is sure to see the fastest run-up Shelsley this year and a special run-off we'll have at the end of the day. A brand new summer sizzler on the August bank holiday weekend is open for entries. It'll have a never-been-done-before tin top 10 on the Saturday and a regular run-off on the Sunday for the quickest drivers. The new Harvest Festival weekend has special places set aside for newcomers who've never driven Shelsley before, with a top 10 runoff for MAC members on Saturday the 12th, with a top 10 on the Sunday the 13th for those in the Sunrise Championship. The regular Autumn Speed finale is nearly full, so if you want a slot, get clicking online to get your entry in soon. All dates and all entries are available online at shelsleywalsh.com.
Yeah, we've got lots of other competitive days throughout the year. More messages through Facebook. James Kerr, hi Toby, hi Eddie. Great to see Shelsley up and running. Looking forward to the August weekend. Have fun calling things this afternoon. It's always fun if the competition is close. The Healeys now come to the line. Trevor Willis being assisted this weekend by 1989 British Hill Climb champion Ray Rowan down there in the paddock. Toby Moody, Eddie Walder bringing you some live stream action here from Shelsley Walsh. I am in Vauxvilla at the base of the hill. Eddie is still self-isolating at his home near Coventry. But through the wonders of technology, Eddie, you can see Richard Mason leave the line in this Austin Healey. It's never a dull moment with Mason, is it?
No, he's fiendishly quick, and we've seen him have a few, should we say, moments, a few scenery visiting moments over the years at Shelsley. But he's looking as if he's going to get to the top in a quite quick time. And Richard Mason, a specialist in restoring these Austin Healey cars, already out and on the finish straight. Richard Mason's going to post a time up there in the high 30s, 37.38. Richard Mason.
Pat Cooper with the other Austin Healey, this time without a roof on their way. 67 miles an hour on S approach. The familiar view of Shelsley on the view down the valley and through the S's as we now cut back to Ted Elwes. Is that how you say it, Eddie? Elwes?
Elwes.
Elwes.
There used to be an Elwes on the telly years ago. I think she was married to Cliff Mitchellmore, the TV presenter.
Oh, I was going to ask if she was on something like Tiswas.
She was a bit earlier than that. A bit earlier than Sally James, who of fond memory. Don't start.
Spit the Dog lives and breathes somewhere
Yeah,
in
that's
the world
the one.
today.
Yeah.
Bob Carroll G's, he ended up by running a candle shop. What a waste of a talent.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it, really? Yeah.
I mean, you know, you'd always prefer Spit the Dog over a candle, wouldn't you? You know? Anyway.
Candles, oh dear, oh dear.
John Fordy's Porsche 911 1968 car that is going through the S's at the moment is absolutely wonderful. I saw some pictures on the Shelsley Instagram of that car, and it's been well restored in period livery. Super job. Michael Henney, though, on his way with the yellow Lotus Europa 1600, on his way through the top left-hander at 68 miles an hour.
And of course, he's a sponsor of one of the other Midland Hill Climb Championships, one of the junior championships, and he manufactures cider somewhere not very far from Shelsley, somewhere in Herefordshire.
Well, there's plenty of apple orchards in this part of the world, as you know, so come, where are we, September, there'll be the cider in full flow you'd rather fancy. Stephen Millward is on his way towards the top of the hill. Nick Stevens has just left the line with his Ginetta G4. Stuart Preston is watching through YouTube. I should be with you all today, but I'm having to settle in on my sofa in Burton-on-Trent. I've got a drink in hand, so there's a plus
I
side.
bet you he has if he's in Burton-on-Trent.
Oh, yes. Very
It's
true.
the world brewing capital, isn't it?
It certainly is, certainly is. Daniel Thornycroft
Yeah,
is watching from Almeria, down south in Spain. He says it's a brilliant production. Thank you so much. Many thanks for this. Dan, I suspect the outside temperature for you is probably what, 42 degrees at the moment, because that was the temperature at Jerez in your part of the world, nearish to your part of the world the other weekend for the Grand Prix. Philip Stader comes up towards the top of the hill with the MGBG TV8 3.5 litre. Sharing it with Dave Nursey, goes over the line, 36.71. Bit of a favourite car here for me. This is Bryony Serrell in the Elva Mark 7, the 1600. First time I've seen her in this car here at Shelsley. Yeah. Lovely looking piece of kit.
Acquired it about a year ago, as I recall.
I suppose I've missed a season, Eddie, because I was driving last year.
Yeah.
And when you're driving and you don't commentate, you miss things. So forgive me if I
And I won the year before that, didn't I?
Yeah.
So Bryony peddling it out of top S, and she's going to be in the low 40s by the looks of it. And she drops a 40.52 into her results chart.
40.52 for Bryony Serrell, car number 93. David
95 being pushed away, David Giddon.
David Giddon, yeah, and that lovely Lotus 23. So maybe there's a problem there for that number 95 car. One Lotus is pushed away, but another Lotus will be coming forward soon. Not from that part of the paddock, but from the dual drive area. It's going to be a single-seater Lotus. In fact, it looks like car number 96. Brian Meddings, in fact, in the Lotus 35. He comes
local chap, Brian Meddings from Malvern. And, of course, he's got an Elise, which was co-driven by David Coulthard and Scott Moran in a piece on hill climbing that was done for the F1 TV, BBC, when they were covering F1 on TV, and it never got shown, sadly, which was a bit of a disappointment.
Yes, it was a bit. And
it was Brian Meddings' car.
Every time I see Coulthard, he always apologises. I said, well, it wasn't your fault, it was the producer. They ran out of time on the slots the weekend after, which was the Spanish Grand Prix, unfortunately. But Meddings on his way. So here we are at Shelsley. If you're just joining us, this is our first live stream with commentary. Eddie Walder, Toby Moody bringing you the coverage. This is our first class run of the 4 batches that we've got. We're on batch 3. And then when we complete our 4th batch, we'll do it all again. So we'll have 8 batches this afternoon. So this is our 3rd batch of 8 in total. Sarah Thorne on her way. She's come from Shelsley King, only the other side of the valley, with the Lotus FJ, the 1600, going through the S's, or towards the S's, should I say, at 74 miles an hour.
Yeah, and that's the target. That class M2 is one of the target times. It's a handicap class where you have to get within certain distance of your target time that's set by the handicappers in order to score. And that's, of course, how the Paul Matty Championship works too.
Sarah at the top of the hill, 36.66. Husband Malcolm had a very wet practice run this morning. He had it completely sideways between Kennel and Crossing, which was a little bit unnerving when I was trackside trying to get some photographs, but it's a dry run for him this afternoon. Hello, Andy Smith. Great footage, Rich Danby and Shelsley. Thank you for your compliments, Andy. He's watching from the sunny Peak District. Hopefully he'll, of course, be back soon with the V8 DJ Firestorm in the hands of Alex Summers. Tanya Brown also watching through our Shelsley Facebook page. Great to be able to watch.
Vintage Sports Car Club royalty there, of course.
Absolutely. Roll out the carpet.
I'm cruel.
Next up.
Now on the hill, it's Bill Drysdale on the hill.
Yeah, Bill's getting...
He never gives up, does our Bill?
No, not at all. Not at all. He gets to the top of the hill, Eddie. 42.32. Nigel Pitt with the OMS. Is that the ex-Clive Austin car? It's got to look like...
I'm not really sure. I know a man that knows, but he's probably asleep at the moment.
Okay, so Nigel makes his way up the finishing straight. Neil Thomas now, car number 100. If you want
this is the MG Cars class.
Yes, yes.
MG Car Club.
Yeah, Steve Jackman with the MGF might be in a minute, running a little bit out of order, but Neil Thomas on his way with a little MG midget. Keith Benningfield on the line. And here he is.
Yeah, this is, yes, an MGTC. So supercharged car. The absolute, the classic MG that put MG on the map in North America, of course. It was a car that appealed to a particular type of American buyer. We've got a very broad span of MGs here. This is a ZR. This is a relatively modern MG, so if you like, it's an MG badged Rover.
A lot of them went rallying, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Yeah, there are still quite a lot of these about. They're good survivors. Good survivors.
Yes, that's the word. That's the word. And he's surviving well at 66 miles an hour on S approach. Dave Morris now leaves the line with another MGTC, 1350 supercharge with the big roll bar. I know they're not pretty, but you just feel so much safer with one of those.
Just makes me think of Californian gentlemen racing at Riverside in the 60s with those great big roll hoops. Yeah, sort of desert conditions in a very British motor car.
And they were so popular as well, you know, in those immediate post-war years here.
Yeah, the Road and Track magazine was absolutely full of adverts for MG accessories. There was a firm that called themselves MG Mitten, would you believe? Because they made polishing gloves for keeping your MG nice and clean.
MG Mitten. Ben Rolls with the Austin Healey Sprite, rather modified as you can see, and very quick for a little Sprite, 75 miles an hour on S approach.
It's lost its frog eyes.
Yes.
That's unusual. I've never seen anybody do that before. Now, this is an MG PB of Tim Sharp. So the little 4-cylinder supercharged engine, which I'm pretty sure was actually built originally for Wolseley. Of course, if it's a pre-war midget, they were the cars that were built by Cecil Kimber. The MG Pioneer worked for William Morris.
Okay.
That's the rubber bumper one, isn't it? I think.
Sharp getting towards the top of the hill. Philip Smith coming underneath the camera position with his MG Midget 1300. Thick and fast at the moment, and the good thing is it's staying dry for the time being here, folks. There's a little bit of wind that's unfurling the flags somewhat, as you can see down there in the paddock and up towards Kennel Bend, but it's quite warm as always in this Voxvilla commentary box with 3 sides of glass. It's certainly not been cold here at Shelsley today, even though we had that torrential rain at about 9:45, 10 o'clock or so. The heavens opened. It was like the meeting in 1947. They'd spent all those years without competition at Shelsley, and then the heavens opened when competition did return. But there were so many people for that first meeting after the war. They put on special buses from Birmingham to come here to Shelsley Walsh, and people were still queuing to get in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And because of the rain, that it made the runs so much slower, we were still having runs on the hill at 8 p.m.
Good grief.
Ah.
Oh, we know a man who was there at the time, no longer with us, sadly.
Yeah, Howard Stockley.
Howard Stockley, but he was at that meeting.
He was at that meeting, and our former
As was
secretary.
John Ryder, of course.
Yeah, and our former secretary of the club, Paul Mark Josland, who was here in 36 and saw the Auto Union. But he, unfortunately, not with us as of about a decade and a bit ago. No, 2005.
Yes.
Yeah. So David Giddens, Lotus 23,
David.
did manage
He
to
got
get
it going,
barked back
good.
into life. And a 77 on S approach time at the top of the hill for the 23, 38.23. 38.23. Did you see that the other 23B was for sale? Terry Granger's was for sale.
Terry, right. Now that's, yeah. I don't know. I've not seen Terry for some years. He was very much a Shelsley regular and a friend of your father, of course.
Okay.
But his wife has been ill for a long while. And of course, he also owns a Jaguar, an HWM with a Jaguar C-Type Le Mans engine that was driven by Sterling Moss in period.
But no,
when it
they
had
are,
an Alta engine.
They were or are still for sale through Worcestershire's finest Lotus dealer.
And of course, Terry also has an absolutely mint Triumph TR3A, one of the nicest you will ever see.
Yeah. I do have to correct
So you've got
myself.
a fine collection of cars.
It's not just for sale at Worcestershire's finest classic Lotus dealer. It's for sale at the world's finest classic Lotus dealer. You know.
Yes.
We have to be correct here, Eddie, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of a batch.
It is indeed. I was just going to have a look back through and see where we got to with.
Well, we've had some quick runs here so far here today.
Run the film. Yeah.
We've had some. Let's just look at the quick runs that we've had so far here today. The quickest we have had being Trevor Willis on a 26.32. There it is, 26.32 for Trevor Willis. He's currently quickest after the first runs, ahead of Sean Gould, 26.50. Third at the moment is Alex Summers on a 26.97. Fourth is David Warburton, 27.94. Fifth is Harry Pick, 28.74. Then we've got sixth in the shape of Simon Andrews, 29.21. Seventh is Stuart Bickley with the Jedi, 29.42. Eighth is Bernard Kevill, sharing with Simon Andrews. He's there with a 29.85. And then we go to ninth with Steve Owen, 30.34. And 10th at the moment being Alan Warburton on a 31.45. 11th Andrew Short, 31.5. 12th Lindsay Summers. 13th Simon Jenks. 14th Mark Lawrence. And 15th in the shape of Nigel Pitt. Why the time's just a little bit off? Well, as you can see with that shot as the cars return down the hill, it's still a little bit damp in some places. Mainly it's going to be damp on that turn into the S's, and that nervousness you get as a driver when you turn in and think, is it going to grip? Am I going to understeer and the bank come out to hit me quickly? You've just got to be careful. What you want to do is to run up the hill, spectate, look and see what the track surface is like, and then run straight back down the hill and straight into your racing car. But it doesn't work like that, because you need to be settled and ready and in the right frame of mind before you pilot a 500, 600, 700 horsepower car up the hill. Other comments that we've got from people watching on our Facebook page. Excellent coverage, says Dave Henshaw. Loving the camera positions to follow the course. He's watching from Norfolk. No hill climb championship round in Norfolk that I've yet to be made aware of.
It's a bit flat over there.
It is a bit flat.
Ideal for our airfields, of course.
Yes, very true, very true, very true. Ian Matthews, he's missing the HPA in the courtyard bar. Well, Ian, it should be open again soon. Just give us some time to get through this first weekend and to find out when we have the opportunity to be back in action. That's.
I'm sure Stan, as we call him Stan, I'm sure he's found something to drink this afternoon. He might not be able to get his Shelsley HPA, but you can be quite certain that he will have a drink in his hand at some time during the day.
Lisa French met Sterling Moss here a couple of years ago, and wife Susie. Sterling Moss not only came here when he was starting to compete, but then he came back a couple of times once as a guest for Classic Nostalgia, another time with the HWM, and he saw Graham White break 25 seconds, didn't he? When was that, 2002?
It was 2002, that's right, yeah. At the
Dug out
June
the
meeting.
photographs. Yes, the June meeting, yes. He got presented with a cheque, did Graham White Jr., which is a Scotsman he would have enjoyed, for £1,000 for
He
breaking
did, yes.
the 25-second barrier. Okay, we are now on to batch 4 of the 8 batches that we've got here this afternoon at Shelsley Walsh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching on our live stream. Nick Allen with the Austin 7 Shelsley Special, Eddie. Smaller engines, but certainly lots of gusto.
Well, this is the Bert Hadley Memorial Championship, Bert being a very, very familiar face around Brooklands and elsewhere prior to the Second World War. Ran a number of the Austin 7 Works supercharged single-seaters at Brooklands and held in perpetuity, easy for you to say, hold in perpetuity the record for that particular class. 747cc supercharged cars, of course. And all manner of Austin 7 specials. I mean, that first car, very strange device with a transverse engine and chain drive. The back end of a GN chassis, and I'm not really sure what the front end is. It's something rather bizarre. With a transverse Austin 7 3-speed gearbox as well.
Eddie, I think we might have a winner for the person watching furthest away. Chris Foster is watching from Johannesburg in South Africa. First time watching Shelsley live since he left Worcester in 1972, 48 years ago, when he used to be a regular spectator. There's something that I hadn't thought of, Eddie. Somebody hasn't been to Shelsley for nearly half a century, but he's seeing it now through a live stream. Chris Foster,
well, it's worth doing
welcome.
This. Worth doing that just for him, isn't it, really?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah. And of course, hill climbing is a fairly big thing in South Africa on public roads, and Alistair Crawford's 2.8 Gould GR55 ended up there in the hands of a local driver who just carries all before him. Still in the blue and white livery. The old Basil Pitt car. So you get these very truncated and very low Austin 7 specials. Go to a vintage sports car club race meeting like the one that the famous one at Mallory Park, and you will see a race just absolutely full, about 20 of these little cars going absolutely hammer and tong around Shaw's hairpin, lap after lap. Yeah, I think it's a handicap race as well, as I recall. And of course, Bruce McLaren started his career in a car very much like the Steve Smallman car that you've just seen leave the start line, an Austin 7 Ulster.
Yes, and they've got that car at McLaren Technology Centre in Woking.
Mm-hmm. Tiny, tiny little cars. They are an absolute gem. And Morris built a competitor, but it was quite a little bit larger and more sophisticated, with half elliptical springs rather than a transverse leaf spring. The Austins were a lot simpler and cruder, really, and only £100 when brand new, the little Taurus. So now coming to the start line, I can see a small single-seater in the 500cc racing cars class. That's the Bert Hadley class out of the way, and this should be, yes, it's Vic Dean, car number 121, in his Cooper Mark 9. Very similar car to the one in which Tony Marsh took a couple of his hill climb championships in the 50s, but that would have had a V-twin Jap in the back rather than this Jap 500cc single. In fact, the little Coopers carried all before them for a number of years in the hands of Ken Wharton, Tony Marsh and David Boshier-Jones, of course. Who
Well,
brought them
Eddie,
through
we
into
were
the
talking
1960s.
about Bruce McLaren, but we've got a viewer from Australia in the shape of Guy Chet. Hi from Australia, enjoying the footage. It's opened the world up to us,
Good to
hasn't
see
it?
Guy looking in. Yeah. Big motorsport country, of course, Australia. Circuit racing, hill climbing, karting, you name it. Motorcycle racing, of course. A range of very unusual circuits from Phillip Island right through to the fabulous Mount Panorama at Bathurst to about 2 hours to Western Sydney. So here we go, it's one of those dents going absolutely hell for leather in his Hornet, which is a Cooper based contraption. Jonathan Lawrence, 500 Cooper, bringing the car safely away from the bank at the crossing bend. I need a man to go and do some inquiring about Jonathan Lawrence, because I think I know who his grandfather was, and he was a Cooper racer and a speedway racer as well. If he's the grandson of particular Lawrence I'm thinking of. Finley McIntosh, Mark 11, so a much later 500cc Cooper. So it's a Formula 3 was a formula that was uniquely British. And they originally, Cooper started out building special small single-seaters that had Fiat Topolino suspension assemblies front and rear. And the Topolino was a front-wheel drive car, and they used to drive the rear wheel through chains, and at the front your feet stuck through the cross member and you steered off that end.
Topolino in Italian, of course, meaning like Mickey Mouse, because it looked like a mouse face.
Yes, that's right, little mouse, yeah. And in Czechoslovakian, of course, Falubaz is Mickey Mouse. That's what he's called there. Everywhere, wherever you go in Czech, there appears to be a Mickey Mouse drawn on a wall. I don't know what their fascination was with that.
Okay, so we're in our Bert Hanley Memorial Championship class at the moment. Sorry, the 500 owners class, up to 500cc. And soon we're going to be going to the 500 owners class for over 500cc. Andrew Radnor on the hill now from Newark with this Cooper Mark 5.
And of course,
similar kind of chassis, Eddie, to the likes of which were used by Tony Marsh, but with a bigger engine when he won the championship 54, 55,
that's right,
56.
Yeah. Yes, he did, and of course Ken Wharton used one as well, and as I mentioned earlier, David Boshier-Jones, who took the first championship in the 60s in a very similar car.
David
I've
Good
got a
had
picture
one
of
as
that
well.
on the wall here.
David Good had one as well,
Yes,
didn't he?
yes.
Yeah.
A man of... What did Marcus Pye call David Good? The pecunious Milk Marketing Board executive, which I thought was one of the better of his phrases that he ever used. And on the start line we've got
Stuart Barnes.
Is that Iota? Yes.
All sorts of gear selection problems, Eddie. It's going uphill slowly, but getting it all together now as he comes up towards the crossing bend.
staggering along just a little. He's still making progress.
Well,
He's holding progress now, so he doesn't appear to be losing any more speed. In fact, he seems to be gaining a little bit.
yeah, 48 miles
S
an hour.
approach
on
speed
S-approach.
of just under 50. Yeah.
Yeah. The steepest part of Shelsley is, yes, that sort of bottom S area, but also the rise up to crossing itself. So it can catch people out. And we've got a problem. Slowly for Marcus Black. It's on one cylinder. It's on one cylinder. There's only one puff of exhaust coming out of one of the two pipes.
Yeah.
No, he's going to get to the top, but it won't be very quick, unfortunately, for the Cooper Mark 7 and 1100. Yeah, struggling, unfortunately.
So this is pretty much what Tony Marsh used for his championships.
Changes down, see if it'll clear the plug in the other cylinder, but it doesn't look as if it's going to do it. What a shame. What a shame.
He probably needs the plugs putting in the oven for half an hour.
Yes.
Regulo Mark 5. That was always what people used to do, wasn't it? Stick the plug in the oven, it'll be okay.
Friend of mine's got
Reynolds
some
now,
quite.
car number 134.
Friend of mine's got some quite soft plugs in a 2002 Rally BMW with a very pokey engine, and he takes the plugs out, warms them up with a heat gun, before he puts them in, and he just casually mentioned as he was screwing them back into the block, cost me 25 quid every time I start this car. Right, this is not a mistake. This is Charles Reynolds on the hill and Charles Reynolds at the bottom of the hill. There are two Charles Reynolds on consecutive numbers here at Shelsley today. And Charles Reynolds that we see in front of us coming out of kennel is the Charles Reynolds with the Cooper Mark 7. Charles, very much an international rallyman, former co-driver, former team coordinator for Nissan Motorsports Europe when they ran the Pulsar GTIR in the early 90s. Then he went to ProDrive and then became part of the FIA Rally Commission. So we've got some FIA royalty here today at Shelsley. Charles Reynolds gets towards the top of the hill and he breaks the beam 39.87 seconds. Russell Haynes is having a go with the Elva Junior. A lot quicker. Is he on S approach? No, only by 1 mile an hour. Looked quicker, but actually on the speed trap he was about the same. I remind you that Charles before him did a 39.87, so it's down to Russell to see what he can do.
It's a familiar name, Russell Haynes. I got a funny feeling that he's a motor journalist, you know. If I was there, I'd have done the walkabout this morning, but never mind. It's a very, very familiar name.
George Proudfoot on his way through the S's at the moment as Alan Foster leaves the line with the V8 Morgan Plus 8, the 4-litre pushrod. Getting it nicely on the exit of kennel, nice wide entry, gets it pointing in a straight line as soon as he can to get the power on. Remember, if you don't get that throttle down as soon as possible, you're going to lose a mile an hour here, a mile an hour there at crossing, but you may lose 5 miles an hour by the time you get towards the bottom S. So, the last sort of 10 cars or so in our runs for the first runs that we got here this afternoon, and then we're going to do it all again. Another V8 Morgan, this time another litre bigger, 5 litres with Mike Meredith. He leaves the line, growls his way off the line. Not as quick for the first 64 feet as the previous Plus 8, but a bit quicker at kennel and crossing. Meredith on his way at 84 miles an hour. Do keep in touch with us with the comments on the YouTube and the Facebook stream. And we enjoy the fact that you're watching wherever you are around the world. Meredith, 33.48. James Walter now leaves the line. 2.57 for the first 64 feet. He gives himself space on the way into kennel. And on his way. It's drying out, but my spies tell me that it's raining in Ledbury, which is not far away from here, so we'll be back in action after these cars have come back down the hill, and let's see what we can do in case it rains again. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that it doesn't.
So moving on quite quickly now, we're into the Revington TR Register Sprint and Hill Climb Championship. TR7 V8 of Steve Small on the start line. Regular competitor around the Midlands Hills in this Revington Championship.
That's a beast,
And
that.
the TR6.
That TR is a big beast that we've got here.
It is, isn't it?
Squealed
Yeah.
its wheels when he banged it into second.
He was really close into the bank at the crossing as well. I think he's probably got some grass stains on the sills.
Steve Small is on his way as Nick Smith starts and goes up towards Kennel. And we've got a Porsche next up in the shape of Phil James, the Cayman S. But the Triumph is on his way.
Yeah, the Trident Engineering Welsh Sprint and Hill Climb Championship. Good to see that they're having themselves a season. Of course, they have to do a bit of travelling because I don't think there is an operating hill in Wales anymore, apart from the one on the military land at Epent. Speaking of Welsh, here's a Gilburn on the start line. Gilburn was one of the very few, if not the only, Welsh marks of car. They started off with MG engines under the bonnet and ended their time in production with Ford V6s. Supplied by my old employers, of course.
Well, the Cayman goes towards the top of the hill. I drove one of those GT4s in the winter, and they're a fair old bit of kit. 38.91 for Phil James's Cayman. Brian Gent with the Gilburn that Eddie mentioned a moment ago. He's coming up towards the S approach. And next on the line, but you're yet to see on the live stream, is the Volkswagen Golf R. And it was a very quick start that he did this morning in practice. 2.06 seconds for the first 64 feet.
He's got 310 metric horsepower, Toby.
Oh,
and
metric,
all-wheel drive.
okay. So
Or PS.
now
Paid as stock.
now the hill will start to not be his friend at 72 miles an hour. Yeah, you know, people have got quick road cars, but come to Shelsley, and if you can break 30 seconds, you're doing, well, out of this world. Yeah.
Oh, that's Gordon's shopping car, by the way.
Could bring me a cup of tea and a Mars bar on his way down then, couldn't he? Gordon Hick gets to the top of the hill, 37.14. Alison Locke with the Mini 1400 didn't sound on all four cylinders, unfortunately. Didn't sound as healthy as it should have sounded. But she's on her way.
Of course, she's on a change of car. She would have been in a Lancer Evo 4 until last night when she changed cars to this Mini. Gary Morgan's very, very quick Chevette HSR, sorry, leaves the start line now. And it is one quick piece of kit. And finally, Carol Nichols, the daughter of Ken Nichols, who created the Nike brand of racing cars. I don't think he ever built two the same. He built in the region of 16 to 20 chassis over the years. Carol caught the bug a few years ago when she was offered this car and had it sympathetically restored to the period finish, and she enjoys usually a full season of hill climbing every year. Obviously this is a bit of a late start for her this weekend.
I'm not sure, Eddie, if you can say nowadays she caught the bug.
Weekends. Yeah. Oh well, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I know
the
what you
best
mean.
phrase to use. Yeah. But we've used that phrase for many years. I don't see why we should stop now.
Quite right. Quite right. Pulling your leg. Steve Jackman in the
Oh, no.
MGF 1800 is on his way through crossing. This is the last car of our first run, so we're halfway through the afternoon's running here at Shelsley. And as Steve Jackman makes his way towards the top of the hill, that is going to complete the runners and riders for their first competitive
I'm just going to take a quick break, Toby.
Okay.
For a few minutes.
No problem at all.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Don't worry.
I won't be drinking fizzy pop.
No, but make sure mine's got one
Commentators
sugar
don't
in.
drink fizzy drinks. Right, I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Don't worry at all. So that's the completion of our first runs here at Shelsley. For the first of our 6 competitive weekends that we've got here at the hill climb throughout this 2020 season. If you're looking to enter, then do go to shelsleywalsh.com and go to the competition button at the top of the page. Drop that down. It gives you a rundown of hill climbs and sprints and such like, but obviously in this season we're going to be running Shelsley Walsh hill climbs only. No Maras, no Kerbras. We've just got to concentrate on essentially cramming a full season into just a couple of months here at the hill climb in Worcestershire, but we will do that. So why don't we go through what other events that we've got here lined up at Shelsley in 2020 and how you could compete here at the world's oldest motorsport venue?
We've been working hard at Shelsley Walsh to get hill climbing back on track in 2020. Other competitive meetings we have at Shelsley Walsh this year include the VSCC Day on August the 8th, with a few spaces remaining for entries, while we're full for the Reg Phillips Trophy meeting the day after. The regular August Shelsley on 15th and 16th of August is filling up day by day, but is sure to see the fastest run-up Shelsley this year and a special run-off we'll have at the end of the day. A brand new summer sizzler on the August bank holiday weekend is open for entries. It'll have a never-been-done-before tin top 10 on the Saturday and a regular run-off on the Sunday for the quickest drivers. The new Harvest Festival weekend has special places set aside for newcomers who've never driven Shelsley before, with a top 10 run-off for MAC members on Saturday the 12th, with a top 10 on the Sunday the 13th for those in the Sunrise Championship. The regular Autumn Speed finale is nearly full, so if you want a slot, get clicking online to get your entry in soon. All dates and all entries are available online at shelsleywalsh.com.
The view in the paddock and also the view on our Shelsley socials. I had a text message from Hans Stuck the other day and he said he's found his father's trophy that he won here in 1930 when he broke the outright hill record with 42.58 seconds. He found the trophy after some, 90 years, and those pictures are on our Shelsley Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages at Shelsley Walsh. We've also got some messages across the world from Mark Coombs. Loving the live stream, guys. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see Sean Gould's new car when we're trackside again. Mark is actually watching down the road in Worcester during these non-spectator meetings, but let's keep our fingers crossed, Mark, for a couple of weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, see how we go on working out how we can get spectators in. Likewise, Jack Whittleston. First day on holiday in Cornwall. Glad I could watch hill climbing on the beach. What a great job, he says, that we're doing. Thank you very much, Jack. And I also mentioned Chris Foster. Chris Foster watching from Johannesburg. First time watching live since he left Worcestershire in 1972. He used to come here as a regular spectator, and he's now watching for the first time in, nearly 48 years. Small world, hey Chris, isn't it? Someone else a little bit closer to home, Gareth Vaughan, watching from Carmarthenshire. Fond memories of doing the centenary run with our classic sector and briefly competing with his Porsche 911. Great memories of ADO. Well, haven't we all? One of my first memories was watching ADO slide through crossing a four-wheel drift with a pill beam with an open pipe DFV 3.5 litre in the back of it, and he did 26.08, and I just thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And we're still here. Also, another mention once more to Guy Chet. Hi from Australia. He's watching and enjoying the footage. Hi, Guy. And likewise, we've also got Mark Goldsmith watching the Shelsley live stream through his Facebook connection. We are at facebook.com/Shelsley Walsh. We are at youtube.com/Shelsley Walsh, and we are on at Instagram. Send us in some pictures of where you're watching around the world. Send us an Instagram story at Shelsley Walsh, where you are around the world. So, Guy, take us a picture with, I don't know, your barbecue. It's probably late for you at this time of day in Australia, but send us a picture of what it's like down there, down under. And likewise, the view that you, Chris Foster, have got from Johannesburg watching our stream live. Okay, we're underway with our second class runs here at Shelsley. Alan Broom is on his way up the hill with the Toyota MR2, the 1800 latter version of the Toyota, the largest motor company in the world. And likewise, we've got Chris White with the Mazda MX-5, the ultra-popular MX-5 that goes on and on with yet another iteration that has appeared in recent years and so popular with so many people. Chris Wright goes towards the top of the hill. Paul Howard with the Rover MGF 1800. Paul Howard coming out of Kennel Bend here at Shelsley. It's a 1,000-yard hill up to the steepest part of Shelsley. It was so steep when we came here in 1905. The first car didn't even make it up that point on the racetrack. So actually, they dug the hill out a bit and made it less steep on the approach to the crossing commentary box. But it's still 1 in 6 now. Paul Howard with the MGF makes his way towards the top of the hill. That time will stop on your screen soon. Chris Buffton with the Citroen Saxo 1600, the basis for that Super 1600 Rally Championship that Sebastian Loeb then won before he bounced into the World Rally Championship, having his first drive in a World Rally Championship car on San Remo 2000. And then, of course, going on to win, 9 World Rally Championships. It was the era of Sebastians, of Loeb, and then Ogier. The Citroen makes its way to the top of the hill. The Lotus Elise of Simon Dudfield now is on its way, the yellow car. And then another Lotus will be following him up in the shape of Chris Westwood. If you're interested in driving Shelsley Walsh, go to shelsleywalsh.com. We've got our entry page there, and we've got some up-and-coming meetings, some of which give priority to people who have never driven at Shelsley before. So get your entry in and get to feel the thrill and the buzz and the excitement of what it's like to drive the 1,000-yard hill. So 115 years old this year is Shelsley Walsh. So we've got lots going on as we play catch-up. Other people from around the world watching include Elliot Daniels, who's watching from Spain. Elliot, please send us just a little bit of sunshine. Eddie is back with us, and here's Ollie Wright in that Peugeot 106 GTI.
Yes, takes his place on the, as I mentioned just a few moments ago when I was silent, the most famous 1,000 yards in motorsport worldwide. And of course, if you're a motorsport journalist and you ever quote it in the metric measurement of 997 metres, you're never allowed back at Shelsley.
Well,
It's not permitted to do it in metric.
not at all. Not at all. It's 1,000 yards. It's a nice, easy figure for Oliver Wright. 35.67. Good time that, because it's just started to drizzle a little bit here down at the start line. There's some windscreen wipers working away. Howard Davies back with the Alfa Romeo GT V6, 3.2 litre V6. Nice car.
Yeah, the good old rain sensing wipers that we have today on our cars.
Yes, I drove here yesterday in my red car, which of course is a 1989 model, and you get to an island and you touch the indicator once, and then you wonder why it's broken. Because of course it's not got one-touch indicators. It's a 31-year-old car, and one forgets, after being spoilt with the modern machinery that we both drive, Eddie, how easy it is in the modern cars compared with the maybe more analog cars, like we're seeing here at the moment with this 964 Carrera RS and soon the Ford Sierra Cosworth.
Superb car, this Sierra Cosworth of Will Goff, with the famous whale tail spoiler on the back. It's strange, it was effectively the cheapest body shell they could come up with, but of course dramatically stiffened. And the RS500 version, they were all made in Bedworth by an Aston Martin subsidiary.
Was it Tickford?
Yeah, at the same time the Capri was made on one side of the little plant, and on the other side were the RS500s. And there was a fair bit of rivalry between the teams of lads that built the cars.
The Sierra gets to the top of the hill, 43.83. Peter Ash now with the TVR Griffith. I like these Griffiths. I'm not a TVR nut, but I like the Griffith. There's something about them. A friend of mine had an all-black one. Black leather, black bodywork, 5-litre V8. You'd spin the wheels in any gear you wanted.
Nice, simple, and that is an analogue car, isn't it?
Yeah. We've got the
good word
TT.
for them. Good word for them.
Yeah, the TT of Anthony Brown, the 1800 turbo on its way and having a crack at it, isn't he? He's having a go, going through S approach.
Yeah, he's pressing on
at a speed of 78 miles an hour. We've got some quick road cars coming up in the next few runs.
Yeah, not the least being Rick Leddy, of course, in his 2.5-litre 5-cylinder 30 valve version of the TT. The beast it is as well.
The Cayman S on its way, going through S approach. James Allen McFarlane at 70 miles an hour. Through he goes. Bob Penrose now with the other Cayman S. He knows what he's doing. Subaru's up next. And
yeah, I
then the
remember
GTR.
him. Was a single-seater driver going way back. Had that OMS with an 8-cylinder Cosworth V8 in the back.
Here is the Subaru.
Well known as
Here is the Subaru, and 2.11 for the first 64 feet. Looks like he's really pushing through Kennel, coming up to crossing. It's all blind until now, and then it opens out. S approach speed coming up for the Subaru Impreza. 2.5-litre turbo, 79 miles an hour.
this is a very quick class, isn't it?
Oh yeah, some quick road cars in here. You're absolutely right, including not just the next TT, but the TT after that, the one in the background there, the black one. That's very quick. That's the one you've been talking about. Time for the Impreza, 36.53.
Yeah, Graham Godfrey's car being turbocharged is really very, very quiet indeed. Doesn't betray its presence at all strongly. Whereas this one does. Rick Leddy's 5-pot car.
2.14 for the first 64 feet for Rick Leddy. Already up to crossing bend. Through there, bank slap, middle of the road. Now he's got the view up towards the top left-hander. That'll be flat speed. 87 miles an hour for the all-black TTRS. Careful into bottom S. Immediately the top S will be approaching. He exits okay. He's clean. He's away. And Rick Leddy's time will stop at, let's have a look, 34.31. Stephen Mogg now following him up with the TVR Griffith 500. We saw the yellow one a moment ago. Here's the red one. 84 miles an hour on S approach as the Nissan GTR lines itself up on the start line. Stick and fast, Eddie.
Yeah, I was just going to look to see where that has left people as we got towards the end of that Class A3. So, yeah, Rick Leddy, his earlier time of 33.87, immediately after the break, was lunch break, was his quickest of the day. And he leads the class on that from Steve Mogg, who's yet to take his second run, of course.
And as we just quickly look at John McBride's note, I love the sound of the Scooby. Well, quite right. We all love the sound of that that flat four, but likewise the growl of that 5-cylinder Audi is also good as well. Another Audi on the hill, John Goodred's with the S3, 2.27 for the first 64 feet. Helen Evans's 911 Carrera is on the line. That's going to be quick. You'll see that when she lets the clutch in, and she does that now. First 64 feet, 2.57. Now it'll get into its stride. We've had some wonderful comments through Facebook and through the YouTube channel. I'll show you them during the end of the batch, everybody. And also, just great that people are being able to reconnect with Shelsley after maybe not being able to turn up for some years or being too far away. And names from the past. But I'll bring you up to speed when we get to the end of the batch. Craig Spooner on his way.
Yeah, change of car and change of class. Craig this afternoon.
Yeah, got some dual-driven cars here, Eddie. So they're going to get quicker, which is good.
Yeah. So Craig is through the exit of the S's and he's up the finish straight now, and he's going to go and stop the clocks on a 36.51. Meanwhile, here's Lindsay Summers leaving the start line in the little space frame, the only space frame DJ Firehawk ever built.
2.04 for the first 64 feet. She's on her way through Kennel, through crossing, on towards S approach, building speed with the just under 1100cc car, 87 miles an hour. It's got a superbike cylinder head fitted for this season. And she makes her way towards the top of the hill. She did a 31.8 before. She's going to beat that easily, a 30.73. 30.73. Now, as we have on the line, car number 786. This,
Mark Lawrence.
Sorry, 766. Mark Lawrence with the OMS. 2.27 for the first 64.
1999. Hill climb leaders champion in another OMS, an earlier OMS PR for the bike engine. Alan Warburton on the start line in the Gould GR59.
Mark Lawrence gets to the top of the hill.
Took to a couple of
30.11. 30.11. Here is the aforementioned Alan Warburton. Traction control helps him leave the line. Changes gear once, twice. Should be in fourth gear for that first corner. 2.46 for the first 64 feet for the Gould GR59. Bored out booster, 1600cc capacity, 101 on S approach for Warby. Comes out of top S, jabs at the power, now he gets the foot to the boards. Warby in last August did a 26.7 and he does a 29.4 here today. Next up is Bernard Kevill. OMS 28 2.6 litre V8, 2.47 for the first 64 feet.
Fairly experienced driver, late starter but experienced. Did start out sharing an MGTF with his mate Simon Andrews a few years ago. They've also got a Formula Ford, and they used to have an earlier OMS 28, of course.
Bernard Kevill, 29.67. 29.67, 116 miles an hour when he crossed the finish line. That's the end of a batch, and another opportunity for us to catch up with some of your words wherever they are coming from around the world, including from David Elliott, who used to be the mechanic for ADO. David, I'm sure I remember you. You had a moustache, did you not? And he was ADO's engineer. Alistair Douglas Osborne, but he was just known as ADO. He had a black helmet with a white ADO written down the side of it, and it was just the coolest thing. ADO, 1976, British Hill Climb champion, stands to be corrected, 76, 77. 76, yes, I'm sure it was 76. In the Pilbeam R22. So David, hello. Come back and see us. Come back and make yourself known to us all here at Shelsley again. You're always welcome when our doors will be open. Steve Ransley, hi. I'm watching in Evesham. Can't wait to be back on the hill watching at Crossing. Loving the split timing graphics. Good work, guys. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Steve Ransley. Thank you very much. 1977, I've been corrected by those who should know. I always get confused if it's ADO 76 or ADO 77. 76, Nicholas Williamson, you're right. Thank you very much. Also, who else is watching from around the world? On YouTube, PH Collins is watching. Thank you for bringing motorsport to us on an otherwise miserable day. It's probably raining with you, Mr. Collins. Best wishes to all Shelsley staff and all of the entrants. So thank you very much for giving us the time to write in. Julian Buckler, thank you for the effort with the live stream for us all. Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. We've worked hard, but it's all been worth it as these cars come back down the hill. I remind you, we've had our first batch of our 4 for the second runs, so we'll be back in action very soon.
And of course, if you go back to 1977 and ADO's year, and the top 10 that year, they were pretty much hill climb royalty. Who was second to ADO that year? But Martin Griffiths, who went on to win 5 championships. And the 4 times champion Roy Lane. In third place, David Franklin. Chris Kramer, who we still see today, supporting last year's British champion Wallace Mengis. Mike McDowell. Malcolm Dungworth, remember his name?
Absolutely.
Rob Turnbull, of course.
Yeah.
Remember Rob Turnbull, the bloke who used to say, "I hate this hill." That's what he used to say at the end of almost every event. Do you remember that? Or I was just reminiscing with a couple of guys last night on that particular subject. Lovely fellow. And Ken McMaster in 9th, and then a few. And going a bit further down, in 13th was Richard Brown, of course, who a few years later went on to take the Shelsley record, which he held for 9 years.
He did. Took it in June 1992. Glyn Hobbs, brilliant coverage. He's watching from the Dordogne in France. Bonjour, ça va?
We're in the wrong place, aren't we, really? Could we move Shelsley to somewhere in that neck of the woods, please?
Oh, there's a thought. Yes. It would be different
Oh,
in
there are
different
some
ways.
spiffing hill climbs in that neck of the woods.
And also another message from friend of Shelsley Walsh, Chris Gittins. Great Saturday afternoon entertainment. Thank you both. Chris Gittings, the master of ceremonies for our Shelsley Walsh Breakfast Club that we have here.
He is indeed, isn't he? Yeah.
Normal. And for our members only, we're going to have not an evening breakfast club, because by definition it won't be a breakfast club, but we're going to have a Shelsley Walsh Cars and Coffee this coming Thursday evening, but that's for Midland Automobile Club members only.
Pre-booked as well, isn't it, I think, Toby?
I'm sorry, Eddie?
Pre-booked, I think.
Pre-booked, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, a lot of
Thank you
people
for
to tell us that they're coming.
Thank you for reminding me. But members will have had an
well,
email
if we hadn't
last
mentioned
week.
that, we would have been told off later.
No, all MAC members had an email last week to say that Cars and Coffee was on, and it's, as I say, for members only, so we didn't publicise it to the outside world, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
So it was for MAC members only. Do send us a picture of where you're watching from through our digital channels, at Shelsley Walsh with Instagram or Twitter, or simple Shelsley Walsh through Facebook. Send us a picture and we can catch up with where you're watching from. David Elliott writes in and says, yes, that's correct. He still has the moustache, but he's a little greyer. He was ADO's mechanics. Yes, I do remember you very well indeed. I'm sure that we've got a picture of you, David. It's tucked away in the archive somewhere. Fettling a Waring and Gillow Pilbeam. Wonderful days for me to watch those cars. Unsilenced. Oh, unsilenced all the way to the end of the 89 season. And then the noise police came in. But it was going to happen sooner or later. Okay, we're back underway with our second batch of second class runs. We've got 3 batches remaining, including the one that we are in. And Dave Moore leaves the line with his Ford Escort Mark II, a Group 4 2.2 litre car. Regular competitor here at Shelsley. Goes well, looks well, loves it.
So we know that the Class A3 was settled towards the end of that last batch with Rick Leddy sitting on top, followed by Steve Moore and Steve Barnard. And now we're into a slightly different class. We've got Nigel Elliott in this simply bonkers Triumph TR7. I got a friend up in Scotland, David Finlay, you may have heard of, one of the Dune commentary team, who says that he believes that Nigel needs to add 1 foot per turbocharger to this car to make it handle a little more sensibly. It needs to be about 2 feet longer than it currently is.
I thought you were talking about making each track 1 foot wider either side, because when its tail wags.
No, a bit longer.
1.86 seconds for Andrew Norris for the first 64 feet. There's traction for you with the 911
they
Carrera.
Do grip, don't they?
That is quick. That's electrifying start on a day such as today. Great big black lines that he's left here on the start line. And we got another 911 RSR in the shape of Paul Howells about to leave the line. What a great run from Norris. He's always entertainment with this car. The RSR leaves the line. Norris crosses the finish line, 32.78. Paul Howells on his way with the RSR. 2.15, just a 2.15 for the first 64 feet, and yet he's still cracking on with the wide Porsche. Great stuff.
Anna May Furness sitting on the start line. That's Paul Howells heads up the finish straight. He's going to be in the low 30s. Does a 32.69. Paul Howells in the RSR. There's Anna, local lady dog groomer. She's got one of these vans with all the gear inside. Team Valley resident, of course.
Anna May on her way to the top.
Jerry Neary, a man who's competing for many years in this Westfield. He's also got a Caterham. Henrik took his first Midland Championship in many years ago. And of course, Jerry is a man who's visited a number of the British Hills a little more closely than he would like to. Going off at, he went the furthest off a hill climb at Barber Manor about 15 years ago than anybody else I've seen. It was seriously 300 feet off the track. I've got a picture of the recovery unit.
I sincerely hope he paid to get back in.
Yeah, well, he went through, you know, the magic blue rope that they have at Barber Manor, the one that stops everything. It didn't stop him. And of course, you skip off those rocks that stick through the soil there.
I've only been there once, and that was driving.
Shared with Bob Dyson.
I know I did, but I won't drive there again. It just didn't work.
It's a shocker, isn't it?
It didn't work for me.
It is a shocker. I love it. I love it.
I went well at Harewood the day after, but then something broke.
Yeah.
Right, this will be a quick run. This is Simon Jenks with the Caterham 1600. 2.26 seconds for the first 64 feet.
Yeah,
Always quick here at Shelsley. He's on his way. He's already through crossing, and he's gone from crossing.
He's very, very well seeded. You know, that's one of these little things that I've a touch of a bee in my bonnet about. But he's in the right place here, running last in his class, which is normally an indication that he ought to do well. And Simon Jenks does a 30.84, which what does that do for him? It leaves him top of the class. That 30.84 is the quickest by far in Class B for this afternoon. In fact, he is over 4 seconds quicker than Graham Franklin, who is in second place. So 30.84 down to a 35.07.
Okay, for those of you who are looking for an entry list and you're watching online, if you go to shelsleywalsh.com, you go to the news section, run along the toolbar at the top of the page, go to news. That will then open the news page, and the top news story has got the entry list in for today and tomorrow, so that you can print them out and you can have them on your lap whilst watching on your iPad.
My recommendation.
Or if you've pinged the signal to the main screen in the corner of the front room.
Mm-hmm. Well, my recommendation to people who want to print it, being as I come from stock who are very careful with their money, is to print it in black only. Don't use the colour. Just print it in black and white. That's all you need.
Okay, Bickley leaves top S and crosses the finish, 34.83. Stuart Bickley with the Jedi, 2.2 seconds for the first 64 feet. He's having a go at crossing. He was having a go in dry practice this morning with Stuart. 1000cc motorcycle engine. S approach was 100 miles an hour as he comes into the S's. Comes through there out of top S. A little bit more grip maybe than he thought there might be. And he crosses the line in a 29.16. Mark Slater already on the hill and going through Kennel Bend. We've got some quick single-seaters coming up here, folks. Getting quicker.
Yeah, here's Mark Slater now. Coming up towards us, just as a by the way. Stuart Bickley is the son. David Bickley is his dad. And they are pretty much Kerberos specialists, but especially Stuart. Has a couple of MAC best times of the day at Kerberos, and at least one Hill Climb Sprint Association 2-lap sprint there.
I think I still hold a 2-lap record at Kerberos. I may do, I may not. Nigel Pitts on the hill, already through crossing with the OMS, similar kind of car that Adam Fleetwood cut his teeth on before he went on to win the British Championship 2 times in a Gould.
Yeah, as did many others, of course. The OMS 2000M was one of Steve Owen's most popular chassis over the years.
Here we go, next car leaves the line. It's Alex Summers, the former British Hill Climb champion. He's driving the family's DJ Firehawk. It's a 1070cc engine, 4-cylinder behind him, flat through crossing. This will be a very quick S approach speed, 111 miles an hour before he breaks for the bottom S. He makes it dance through the S's. Already he's out of top S, already he's back out into the sunshine out of the trees, and Alex Summers crosses the line, 26.21. Best time of day to date. Quickest run-up Shelsley in 2020 at the moment. 26.21 second for Alex Summers. They're getting quicker, I did tell you. Harry Pick on his way.
Doesn't that lay down a marker for Sean Gould and Trevor Willis?
.21 there for the target, and Harry Pick on his way with the OMS 1000. 28.03 for Harry. Next up, it's another OMS. It's a 1600 in the shape of Andrew Short with that purple livery that I've not seen before, but it's in immaculate condition, and he's having a good crack at it as well. Already on his way towards S approach, and he goes through the speed trap at 97 miles an hour.
Yeah, this is a carbon fibre OMS chassis from 2007. I believe it's Pat Roach's old car. I'm quite certain it is. And this one is was the factory OMS Hornet, run by Steve Owen and Lynn Owen themselves.
Rob Anscombe on his way up
15
towards
years
the
ago.
crossing, and already gone through it, and he goes through the S approach at 87 miles an hour. Got David Warburton coming up next. Then we've got Simon Andrews / Bernard Kevel car. Simon Andrews, sorry. And then we've got Sean Gould,
will
Trevor
be
Willis,
Simon, yeah.
and also we've got Steve Owen. Anscombe's time, 33.55. Here's David. The Gould GR59 leaves the line, and he leaves it so well. He's on his way in 2.28 seconds. He did 27.94 first thing this afternoon, but the track is a bit dry. 117 on S approach. Already out of top S.
And of course, he finished 10th in last year's British Hill Climb Championship. Hence the number 10 that he carries on the car.
27.04, 113 miles an hour when he crossed the finish line. Simon Andrews with the V8. 2.8 litre OMS 28. He's already up to crossing. He's using the power. Got to kennel in 6.6 seconds. That's good. S approach. 110 miles an hour for Simon. Well, he fettles classic cars during the week, but is in something rather modern here for the weekend, isn't he? Simon Andrews gets towards the top of the hill. He crosses the line, and he does a 28.46. 28.46. But surely the battle of this day's best time of day, he's going to come down between Alex Summers, Trevor Willis, Sean Gould, Steve Owen, and here is Sean Gould. Just look at this car. This is 2020 hill climbing encapsulated in a Gould GR59. Sean Gould leaves the line, 2.07 seconds. He's already to kennel in 6.15. He's already at crossing. He's building speed. What's his S approach speed as he strikes the sparks? 118 miles an hour.
Trail of sparks. Yeah, he's with us at top S and on the finish straight already. 118 S approach. And 25.26.
25.26. That's the best time of day here at Shelsley so far today. Sean Gould, 25.26. 147 miles an hour when he crossed the finish line for the Gould. It's got a 4 litre Judd V8 in the back of it. Some 700 odd horsepower that he's got underneath his right foot. But we've got a 3-time British Hill Climb champion coming to the line. This is Trevor Willis. Ray Rowan is just removing the protective film from those front tyres to make sure that he's got clean tyres all the way to the start line. Trevor Willis sits on the line. He had a new gearbox in the back of this car last year. He had some new bodywork as well, either side of the tub. And this is going to be a very quick run through the S's. He hasn't got the speed of the Gould on the straights here at Shelsley, but he's got the nimble, he's got the agility, he's got the the speed through the corners. Trevor Willis, 2.13 seconds for the first 64 feet. Now let's compare him with Gould. He's a little bit down to Kennel. Through crossing, he's a little bit down by about 1/10 of a second. Let's approach quicker though, 121 miles an hour.
And his S sector time.
Oh, he's up the bank! How he gets away with it. Whoa, 26 seconds exactly. Trevor Willis went up the bank. There were two wheels about a foot off the ground on the exit of Top S. That's how close it was on the exit of that corner. 26 seconds exactly. He was there and thereabouts with Sean Gould by the time he got to the bottom S, but he was quicker through the S's by a couple of tenths of a second, but he went up the bank. I thought it was going to be worse, but he managed to get away with it. That was a lucky moment for the three-time British champion. Dave Nursey now on the hill. He is a dual driver, so he's going to complete this batch and then return the car safely to Philip Staedler at the bottom of the hill for his run. Whew, take a breath.
Well, we've got one of our regular Shelsley photographers, Rob McDonald, at Top S. I'm rather hoping he's got a rear view of that coming together with the bank by Trevor. That will make interesting viewing.
Yeah, that was.
If I know Rob, he's bound to have got that.
Very, very close one. Well, Sean Gould, 25.26 from Trevor Willis's 26 seconds exactly from Alex Summers's 26.21. Didn't see Steve Owen in that batch, did we? So let's see.
No, he's
if it is okay.
Sort that. No, he's not. Neither has Lynn taken, his wife Lynn, has not taken a second run in that car either.
Well, let's have a quick look and see
Best
how it's all
time
panned out.
Toby.
Yeah, Sean Gould, 25.26. Trevor Willis second. Alex Summers third. David Warburton fourth. Harry Pick in fifth position. Simon Andrews in sixth. Bickley, that's the Stewart, in seventh. Alan Warburton next up ahead of Bernard Kevill, Mark Lawrence. Andrew Short. Steve Owen, well, he would have gone faster on his second run, but there was something sounding not quite right with the engine. Or was it the traction control? When I was watching him up the hill this morning, it didn't quite sound like it was running cleanly, but let's hope that he might be able to squeeze another run.
Well, it is very early in the car's life, isn't it?
Exactly. There's always going to be teething problems. Lindsay Summers, Simon Jenks, Paul Howers, but Sean Gould, 25.26. That's his his best time a day at the moment. Well, again, your comments coming in from Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for keeping in touch with us. Jim Pawson, big moment that, wasn't it ever, Jim,
Yeah.
as he watches from our Facebook page. Other people watching from around the world. Chris Dennis, thank you, the Midland Automobile Club, for such a fantastic effort. I'm watching from Sherborne, North Dorset. I will be leaving in the early hours tomorrow to compete in my Gilburn. So we look forward to seeing you here then. Also, we've got another candidate for furthest away viewer, Ian Ray. Good morning to you in Canada. Thank you for the coverage. I wish we had a hill like Shelsley here in Canada. You've got lots of hills, Ian. It's down to you to lead the charge to try and make a hill climb up one of them.
I just wish that we got something that they got in Canada that we don't have, which is Tim Hortons. And if you've ever visited Canada, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a sort of a McDonald's for grown-ups, is the best way to describe it. They do just about the best coffee and donuts on the planet. So you can imagine, can't you? You can imagine just how much some of our friends would like that.
Friend of yours, Lee Corbett, watching from Guernsey.
Yeah, in his man cave, which is a shed to be envied, I've got to say. This is a man who, every time he sees a motorbike, he buys it. He's got about 10 of the damn things. Ash Mason Former Midland Hill Climb champion. Comment from Ash. Ex-Bentley guy, looked after the Bentley Heritage Fleet, of course, as you all know, Toby.
Yes, indeed. And see him at Goodwood and Le Mans and various places around the world.
And what was the place?
Cars.
What was the nice heritage weekend in Cholmondeley Castle? That was it, Cholmondeley. That was sadly lost now, but it was a nice one. That particular one, very nice one. A bit of a relaxed weekend out for everybody. And of course, Ash would turn up with the. Oh, go on, yeah, please do.
Okay, so Trevor Willis came out of top S, and look at this. Right up the bank on the left-hand side,
Wow.
rear wheels in the air, came back down to earth with a couple of sparks. If you just missed the replay, maybe we could have it again. Yeah, here we go. Look at this, up the bank, oof, back down again, and another couple of inches over to the left-hand side, and it would have been in serious trouble.
Yes, I do hope that Rob managed to catch that one with us. That's a beauty. You won't want to do that too often. That's the sort of thing that can cause a bit of damage to the joints in the rear suspension. And of course, if it was a modern rally car, usually one of the wheels comes off, doesn't it? They don't like biffing anything sideways.
Yeah, but they usually biff things that are quite solid and quite quickly, like those
like big curbs, yeah.
Gulkensteins they have in Germany, the anti-tank things. Okay then, yeah. Richard Mason on his way again. This will be fun.
Yeah, he's always quick, and he seems to, over the last few years, he seems to have steadied up his performance. So he always used to be a little bit of a risk taker, I would say. I don't think he would be upset at me for saying that, but he's a lot steadier these days and just as quick, if not quicker. He's out of top S, and Pat Cooper, another of these Austin Healey restorers. Fine British sports car, of course. Raced by John, the hardtop cars, raced by the likes of John Gott, the former Chief Constable of Northamptonshire back in the day. He was a very, very quick circuit racer in one of these cars. I'm old enough to remember seeing him at Mallory Park. I know I'm old enough to remember seeing Jim Clark in 1967 at Silverstone.
His championship year.
It was indeed, yeah. I was there at Copse Corner on the first lap as he came through way ahead of the field. He was on a different planet that day, he really was.
Yeah. He threw the keys to his Lotus Elan when he left Paris before he went to that Hockenheim race in April '68. He threw the keys to his road car Elan to a Swiss journalist who was actually living in Paris at the time, called Jaby Conbrac.
Yes, I know that name, yeah. Famous guy.
And then Jaby had the car. It was his forever. And then he died, and Peter Windsor has now got it.
Oh, has he? Yeah, the ex-Lotus boss, yeah.
Peter Collins used to be the team principal for Lotus when it had its secondary incarnation. Peter Windsor used to work as a team manager for Williams, used to work as a team manager at Ferrari.
Oh, right, okay, I got well confused there, haven't I?
A prominent journalist in F1 racing and Speed TV channel, and doing some stuff for Bernie in the past. And he's,
he interviews very well, doesn't he?
He does, and he gets it.
Peter Windsor, yeah.
He totally gets it.
I think I was getting mixed up with Peter War then, wasn't I?
Peter War, correct.
With Lotus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I'm getting my Peters well mixed up there.
Yeah, Peter War was the guy in the picture at Estoril 85 when Senna came back in. And
Senna rather, not Mansell, yeah.
Yeah, Senna. And Senna's got both arms out of the car, and Peter War is there just waving his arms going, wow, we've done it! Senna's first win.
With his big 1980s glasses on, as I recall.
You've got it, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, we've also had some
And
communication
Bill
from...
Drysdale on the...
Sorry, Bill Drysdale.
Bill
He's next on.
Drysdale, yeah. The self-built Porsche 904 GTS. It's actually not a Porsche at all. He built it from scratch using Porsche components. He managed to amass over a long period. He Scottish chap involved with the Bowness revival, but he now lives for the family convenience, and this year I'm sure he was glad to be there, moved to be near his family in the Eastern Counties over in Norfolk.
Okay.
I'm sure has been a comfort to him and his wife.
Bill Drysdale goes towards the top of the hill as we've got Bryony Serrell now on the hill in a lovely little Elva Mark 7. Regular car here at Shelsley, but new to Bryony as of last year. So she's on her way. I'm
nice,
sure
pretty
Philip
little
is
car,
watching.
isn't it?
Pretty car, yeah, very pretty car. Likewise, this Lotus 23 of David Giddon had a problem first class run, got wheeled back, but then he got back in his stride and he's on his way. Doing well.
Yes, it's that's a lovely car too, and of course Jim Clark used to drive those at entirely ridiculous speeds, given that they don't have a massive amount of power.
Absolutely. Brian Medding's on his way. David Giddon towards the top of the hill. He goes out of our side, 36.36. So this the class for classic sports Libre and racing cars pre-1975. Third batch of 4 for the second class runs. Sarah Thorne leaves the line with her Lotus FJ20 Formula Junior car, 1600. Away up the hill. And it was Sarah who was quicker than Malcolm on the first class run. So the race is certainly
Yeah, you said he had a bit of a mare of a practice run as well, didn't you?
Oh, we had a proper fright. Yeah.
In the damp, yeah.
Oh, well, it was underwater.
Yeah.
Underwater. Sarah goes out of top S. She's on her way. We'll keep an eye on her time as Malcolm leaves the line. Sarah, 36.01. There's your target, Malcolm.
Of course, Malcolm's got that Lotus 17 Buick, one with a genuine 3.5 litre Buick pushrod racing engine in the front of it. Another beautiful car. All their cars so well presented.
Malcolm out of top S. Time to beat 36.01. Sarah did 94 over the line. Time ticking away, and he's just pipped her. 35.79.
Ah, dear. Oh, now we get. Now we're into the MG class, MG Car Club. Starting with Steve Jackman, number 99. This is an MGF with the K-Series engine under the rear engine cover, transverse engine behind the driver. Every single one of the body shells for these cars was built by Mayflower in Coventry, in a factory that normally produces truck cabs for Leyland DAF, or just DAF these days. Now they don't rot. They've got a particularly, they always did have a particularly good electrophoretic coating tank at that plant, and hence the reason why these little MGs last so well. And of course, the little 1600cc K-Series engine has been well re-engineered over the years by the Classic Car Brigade, so that it no longer has the unpleasantness that they had during their production phase. So they're reliable, they don't suffer from water pump issues and head gasket issues and so on. A little bit of sweeping taking place down at the start line, and I'll soon have that sorted out. So let's have a look. the MG Car Club. So Steve Jackman did a 42.09. That's his best of the afternoon. But sitting on top is currently still Ben Rolls after the first set of class runs. He did a 36.55, and Keith Benningfield was next back into the 41s. So some 5 seconds between the two. It's going to take some is Ben Rolls. And the whining sound from the MGTC is because it's supercharged. As a Wade blower, they do scream. Those interlocking Wade blowers make a lot of noise. Of course, they travel at crankshaft speed as well. And Tim Kirkham in his Z180. Lots of these left. These are cars that do survive particularly well. If you can get the one with the V6 in it, you're doing very well, because they didn't build very many of those. A small number. Sitting on the start line is the not quite Frog Eye Sprite anymore, and that is Ben Rolls. So leading the class with a 36.55. Keith Benningfield second place behind him, 41.47 as I say. Next car further back, 41.58 for Neil Thomas. And Benningfield and Thomas haven't improved on their earlier times. So Ben Rolls pretty much the beneficiary here. Did all the hard work very early on. He's on the hill now. It's already into the S approach. And he gets there at an approach speed of 76 miles an hour. He's into the S's already in the 22s. Rockets up the finish straight already, and let's see what Ben Rolls can do. Is he going to be in the 37.79, so a fair bit slower than he was before, with a finish speed of 73. But he's top of that MG Car Club's MG class for this afternoon, even though of course his car is a Sprite. They're all very much intertwined and well related. Meanwhile, the PB, the MG PB of Tim Sharp is on the hill, to be followed up by Phil Smith in his midget with the 1300cc engine. 1310cc, that must have about a 40 thou bore oversize in it, I think, to take it out to that capacity, unless it was done intentionally, of course. Martin Wallicott's MGA Coupe rocks about a little bit at the start. As the clutch a bit, you could see the car almost twist itself sideways. Here he comes now in the MGA. Separate chassis, the MGA, the MGB. Later MGB was of course a monocoque construction car. The earlier MGA is a separate chassis. Of course there was a twin cam, which was a fairly temperamental engine back in the day, but the later larger 4-cylinder engine was quite well related to the one that used to go into an FX3 London taxi back in the 1950s, part of the Morris brand, Morris engines based in Coventry. It used to be Hotchkiss, and they produced all of the A series and B series engines for BMC, and a number of other units as well at the Courthouse Green factory, now long gone. Sainsbury's on that site and a sports centre these days. Marshall's taking a selfie down at the start line. It's the only chance they've had this season to do that. So good luck to them. We're very...
Yes, thank you for thanking the Marshalls, Eddie. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, they've done a great job for us this weekend.
We also have to thank our sponsors of Shelsley Walsh, Classic Car Auctions, specialist auction house for the sale of Everyman classic cars. created by the team from Silverstone Auctions. They have a consistent sales rate of over 75% for the last 3 years and have sold over £15 million worth of cars. And likewise, Octane Magazine, one of the leading automotive magazines in the world that covers exclusively the excitement of the classic car world. Get the app for your iPad. There's an offer at the moment, 3 issues for £5. Proud to be associated with Octane. They've got some great stuff in their magazines. Global Displays, an internationally renowned and display company, one of the UK's largest full-service exhibition contractors, providing design, graphics and constructors, all based in Worcestershire. Buildings UK, specialist steel building fabricators. On-site construction and design of steel buildings of the highest quality available on the market today. So thank you to Buildings UK and also to Silverstone Auctions. Silverstone Auctions, who are a partner of Classic Car Auctions, specialist auction house for the sale of classic, moderns, competition, historics and automobilia. The next auction for Silverstone Auctions is online next weekend at silverstoneauctions.com. And also Brand Engineering. Brand Engineering, custom making drive shafts, clutch shafts, half shafts and spindled hubs for motorsport and classic cars. So if you want something that's a bit different, a bit hard to get hold of, the modern technology is your friend. Go to Brand Engineering. We've got one more batch to go here this afternoon at Shelsley for the completion of our first day of competition at Shelsley in 2020. We were due to have our first meeting at the beginning of May, but obviously things have been rather different in 2020. But behind the scenes, we've been working hard to be prepared for when competition would be allowed. And we were fully prepared one Monday evening, and the very next day MUK said we're able to go. So we were absolutely on the blocks and ready to leap out of them. And then on the Wednesday morning we announced that entries were open. And here we are for our summer spree on the 25th of July.
Massive amount of hard work gone into all of this, Toby, I know.
Yeah. It's been a big effort, and we've all pulled together. And we've got another day of it tomorrow, Eddie.
Terrific. I mean, this has been great. It's not what we've been used to, but as a substitute for it to get us back underway, to get a bit of activity under our belt. It's just what we were needing.
And there you go, Eddie. Mel Williams says that the commentator is very good.
Thanks, Mel. That's your thoughts are appreciated.
It's all there for everybody to
I'll have a
catch
look
up with.
at this later. Rich asked me not to try and open up YouTube because it might stall my internet connection, which is slowed horribly today. I actually pay extra for a decent bit of coverage, and I'm not getting it. So I think it might be time to start to talk to Virgin about getting myself some fibre broadband in here, because it's in the pavement outside the front of the house. Oh, Chris Dennis, that's a familiar name. From Sherborne, North Dorset. Oh yeah, of course, he's the one who's he's coming up tomorrow in his Gilburn, isn't he?
So there's one other from Colin Parrott. Great to be able to watch Shelsley from wherever you are, Colin, around the world. So do
you're most welcome.
Shelsley Walsh, give us a mention, take a picture of where you're watching. Somebody was watching on a beach, somebody watching in Canada and Australia, in Johannesburg. Clive Austin was watching at Clifton-on-Team, just over the top of the hill. So near and far, wherever you are, send us a picture of where you've been watching.
I just want to know why he's not entered.
Well, quite. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
But I think Chris Aspinall dropped me a note during the week, and he said that they've only just dropped the car off at Bill Chaplin's Empire workshop. And I said,
right. Yeah.
you've
Good
only
old Bill.
just dropped it off. It's the middle of July.
Well, we know that Clive can be a bit like that. We know that. And of
But
course,
anyway.
Chris has been busy working from home. The Jaguar Land Rover. He didn't get furloughed, but he's been doing all the engineering work online from his home office, wherever that is.
Okay.
All the Austin Sevens now. The Burt Hadley Memorial Championship, as we said before. Burt Hadley, a very famous name in the history of Austin racing, pre-war at Brooklands racing cars, such as the one that's outlined now. That is pretty much a Brooklands replica. Tiny little single-seater car. Burt Hadley still holds the outright lap record for that particular class. We've got Adrian Passman watching from Jersey on the Channel Islands. So good luck to Adrian. Hope he's enjoying life over there. And of course, the publicity officer at MSUK is a Jersey man by birth, and his father used to hill climb and has hill climbed over here at Shelsley in the past. Charles Plain Jones now, Austin 7 Cowley special. I feel like I should know about Cowleys because Cowley was the Morris Works, of course. It'll come to me overnight, but never mind.
It will indeed. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
No.
It happens to us all, Eddie.
Well, it was. I was looking at something to do with Morris Minors, which was the opposition to the Austin 7 earlier this week, and the Cowley name popped up there in relation to Austin rather than to Morris. I think it may have been I think it was the coach builder of Special Bodies was somebody in Cowley, which is a suburb of Oxford, of course, which is where the modern mini plant is.
Exactly. Angela Randall watching from north of Aberdeen, up in Graham White Junior country.
I know Angela Randall. Yes, I've seen her many times over the years at Doon. Never bumped into her at Fintry. But yeah, she takes photographs and videos and so on. Does Angela? She'll be thirsting after a bit of activity. I think the Scottish Sprinting's running a couple of meetings at Kames, and I don't know if they're running a hill climb. The Monkland Car Club, I don't know if they're running one. But they were talking about doing it, but there's nothing happening at Doon this year, sadly. Nothing at all.
It is a shame.
Yeah. Fortunately, they're holding it together. I was talking to Billy Cater the other day, and I forwarded him, before you had it put up on the site, I forwarded him the entry list because he was very interested in having a good look at it. And he'll be there this afternoon with a beer in his hand, watching this on YouTube, I think.
Okay. Alistair Dent leaves the line with the 500cc Hornet. And as you said before, Eddie, the Dent family here in strength this weekend, as always with this class.
Now, tell me, Toby, I'm surprised nobody else. Have we got the National Hill Climb people, the motorbikes? Have we got them here at one of the meetings this season?
We do.
They always go down well with.
It is. Is it the 9th? Is it August the 9th?
Ah, that's good. Yeah, I love that. They're so enthusiastic, and they don't mess about either.
No.
They all gather at the start in a big group, don't they? And off they go. Bill Chaplin used to be a director of that club, didn't he? As I recall, which is registered in Weston-super-Mare.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know if he still is. And
yeah. Jonathan Lawrence going well there, Eddie. Good
yeah,
committed run.
I need to get Al. I need Al Rayner to make this looks like the Lawrence family car.
Yes.
And I need our pal Al to go and have a quick word with him and find out if he is the grandson of Mike Lawrence, and I think he must be.
He's got that youthish, impish, speedy look.
And
39.46.
the car's a bit of a giveaway with the 2 white stripes on the nose. Yeah, we'll get somebody to do a quick walkabout and find out for us.
Vic Dean about to leave the line with the Cooper Mark 9 as Finlay McIntosh makes his way towards the top of the hill. Dean on the live stream at the moment.
Yeah, this is the all-time classic Cooper chassis, the Mark 9. I've actually got a plastic model here that was made by a firm called Frog. Stood for flies right out of the box. They used to build gliders and rubber-powered aircraft, and they made a whole series of racing cars. And I've got the Cooper Mark 9 that somebody had made up. So, to all intents and purposes, that car that we're looking at now, but in green. I absolutely love these things. I remember being taken to the Daimler Works where there was a racing car display when I was a child of about 5 years of age, and seeing this sort of stuff for the first time when I was 5. And being fascinated by the size of the steering wheel in comparison with the width of the car.
Message from
Fascinated me.
Steve. RB5 Steve. Must have a Richard Burton Subaru with a YouTube name like that. Yes, we will be streaming this tomorrow afternoon. We'll be starting about 1:45, 2 o'clock or so. We started just a little bit earlier today because we were worried about the weather, which fortunately hasn't manifested itself. I've had messages from people saying it's raining in Detroit, it's raining in Ledbury, it's raining 10, 15 miles away, but it hasn't rained here. We've been amazingly lucky. But yes, we will be streaming from around 2 o'clock tomorrow, Sunday the 26th.
Yeah, we had it at about lunchtime, about midday. It was the storm that hit Shelsley, and I watched it on the radar coming all the way through. It didn't last very long, but it was very heavy for just a few minutes. Right, Andrew Raynor. Cooper Mark 5 on the line. Here's Mike Wood in the Iota. Iota built a number of cars over the years. They were
well, Mark Wood is on the line. We can't see him yet. We can see him now.
Yeah.
Mark Wood.
Swing axles with lots of negative camber, as you will see as he comes into view up at the crossing. So, to all intents and purposes, a miniature auto union, isn't it, Toby?
Yeah. In a funny sort of way, yes, it is.
Especially with those swing axles on the back. And of course, if you didn't have that negative camber, when you're pressing really hard, one of them might tuck under and lift the car up and pitch you off the track. Hence all of the negative. Love to hear the sound of these Jap single-cylinder engines rattling away. Most of them running on methanol.
It won't go, this car of Marcus Black.
It did that this morning, didn't it?
It won't go.
Yeah, I think the waved arms are an apology to the marshals.
Frustration.
It is, isn't it?
It'll
Sheer frustration.
It's on one of the 2 cylinders.
Yeah, this one, he drops a gear there. Now, they usually have either Norton or Albion motorcycle gearboxes. So they're not unitary engines like a Triumph Twin or a BSA Twin. You have an engine with the crankcase held between plates, the gearbox mounted behind that, a very short primary chain to a clutch from the nose of the flywheel back to the clutch, and then a longer chain down to the back axle. No differential, unlike the modern motorcycle powered hill climb cars, which usually have some form of a hydromechanical diff, don't they, Toby? You'll know about that,
yeah.
Having run a number of cars over the years.
Yeah. Stuart Barnes on the hill at the moment. S approach is 54 miles an hour from his IOTA. As the three-wheeler Morgan, two wheels at the front, one wheel at the back, makes his way up towards Kennel and already out of it. On his way goes Charles Reynolds.
The Morgans qualify in all directions. They qualify as a three-wheeler, or they can run with four-wheel cars, in some cases with two-wheel motorbikes. So they're all things to all men. The famous Morgan sliding pillar front suspension, which they've only just stopped using on certain of the cars, of course, within the last few years.
Charles Reynolds on his way with a Cooper Mark 7 1100cc car, already up towards the S approach, which he crosses at 73 miles an hour. All good for him. Through he goes into top S. Doesn't touch the drain cover. Away and on his way to the finish.
This lovely little Elva of Russell Haynes is a proper. I don't think it qualifies as a Formula 3 screamer, but it certainly is along those lines, isn't it?
Certainly is, yes.
The Screamers were later Formula 3 cars that revved to about, I don't know, 9,000, was it?
Yes. Real screamers.
Noisy, very noisy things.
Screamer streamers. George Proudfoot with the early Morgan.
Yes.
Flurry of Malvern Morgans coming up in a moment's time. It's brightened up down here at the bottom of the hill, I have to say.
Yes, it does. It looks like that on the camera here. And it's very still, isn't it? You've got... I don't see the leaves moving at all in the trees.
No, you're right. You're right. You're pointing things out to me from 2 counties away, Eddie.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Not a flag is fluttering at all. Just to remind you, we will be broadcasting again tomorrow. We'll be on air 1:45, 2 o'clock or so. Do go to our Shelsley YouTube page and click the reminder button for tomorrow's coverage. Likewise, there's a reminder button in Facebook, or even simpler, just write a great big note and put it on the kitchen table. Don't forget, 1:45, 2 o'clock Shelsley stream. We've got some quick cars running here tomorrow as well. And at the moment, we've got Mike Meredith with the 5-litre Morgan Plus 8 on his way through the top left-hander. S approach, 82 miles an hour. All okay for Meredith, gets to the top of the hill, 34.21 seconds as James Walter is making his way towards the top of the hill.
We're getting towards the end of our few Morgans. And, Sports Car Club Techniques Speed Championship, which is a handicap class, of course.
Having said that, it's just started to rain here at the bottom of the hill, just a few spots of rain. Even though it's very bright here and the sun has come out, it's actually just started a little bit of rain. You might not notice it through the camera, but I can see it obviously if I look out of the commentary box position here. But Hamish Roscoe is on his way. It won't affect his run. It won't be too wet for his run up Shelsley.
There's TR3A, so the famous pushrod 4-cylinder Triumph engine related to the one in the petrol and TVO Ferguson tractors, of course. Quite closely related to it, but very different compression ratio. TR7 with its Rover V8, based on a unit that BMC licensed in from Buick General Motors back in the 1960s. Nick Smith's TR6 leads the start line, so Steve Small already up the finish straight. And he's going to post himself a 35.32, a highly respectable time for a Triumph TR7. Now with car number 147, Phil James, who's on the start line, we will move into our last half dozen cars of the day, which is the Trident Engineering Welsh Sprint and Hill Climb Championship. I think the last, aside from the military road at Epping in the Black Mountains, the Brecon Beacons, the only other Welsh hill climb I can think of in recent years was the one at Lisi Fran down in, very badly pronounced by me, but down in South Wales. I think that's fallen into disuse, but I'm told that the road is in fair condition. So Gilburn, 1800cc Gilburn, that's a BMC engine, a gearbox under the bonnet of that Gilburn. The later Gilburns were a little squarer in style, were notionally 4-seaters like this one is, and they used to run a 3-litre Ford Essex V6. Went out of business back in the 70s. Gilburn went into receivership way back then.
Gordon Hick with the Golf R. 2.19 seconds for the first 64 feet. That's rather handy indeed. Quick road car, but it's going to be tested here at Shelsley. 1 in 6 on the entry up towards crossing. 1 in 6 on the entry in towards the S's, and then between the S's, very steep indeed. You need to keep your momentum. Don't press the middle pedal, whatever you do. So as the Volkswagen winds its way to the top of, well, as it would say if it could speak, Das Berg, the hill, he does it in 38.9. Gary Morgan with the Chevette HSR, 2.6, kind of thing that Penty used to drive, Tony Pond used to drive, Russell Brooks used to drive in the British Rally Championships through the forests and through the tarmac lanes of the Isle of Man and the Circuit of Ireland. Gary Morgan's Vauxhall Chevette, nice car, gets towards the top of the hill, breaks the beam now, 36.69 seconds. As we have Carol Nichols with the Nike single-seater 1600, 2.5 seconds for the first 64 feet. Nice solid start. She is on her way. Careful through crossing. It's absolutely blind, but better to be prudent than in the hedge, in the bank, in the grass. 60 miles an hour.
Yes, Carol's father, Ken Nichols, built every one of these Nike cars at his home. And Carol, a late starter into hill climbing, had the opportunity to acquire this car some 10 years or so ago, and paid some people and helped them restore it. And she's been out and competing in hill climbing for the last 3 or 4 years or so.
That is the last run
yourself
here today that we've had at Shelsley Walsh with Carol, but the best time of day has gone to Sean Gould. Sean Gould in the Gould GR59. He did a time earlier of 25.26 seconds. He has best time of the day at Shelsley Walsh on July 2020, just ahead of former best time of day man and 3-time British champion Trevor Willis. Alex Summers, 2015 British champion, there in 3rd position in 26.21 seconds. David Warburton picks up 4th position. He's getting quicker and quicker season by season. Don't I know it? I'm driving in that class with him sometimes, and there's no way I'm ever going to catch him. Harry Pick, great run there in the 1000cc OMS to be in 5th position. Simon Andrews in 6th. Stuart Bickley in 7th position ahead of Alan Warburton 8th. Bernard Kevill in 9th. Mark Lawrence rounding out the top 10. Then in 11th position here today, Andrew Short ahead of Steve Owen. Lindsay Summers, 13th place, ahead of Simon Jenks and Paul Howells. We have got more competition here at Shelsley Walsh throughout this 2020 season, including a meeting in a fortnight's time. But we've got our live stream again here tomorrow. And we will be again on our Shelsley Walsh YouTube account and our Shelsley Walsh Facebook account. So make sure that you set yourself a reminder. In the meantime, Eddie, it's been a pleasure. Eddie, just to let you know, is over in Coventry.
Thank you.
He's unable to come to the hill, so we've had all sorts of connection wizardry to make him able to commentate on this stream, and I thank you immensely. Super job, Eddie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you to Rich Danby and Al Rayner for getting the technology together to enable us to do this. Been absolutely terrific.
Yes.
Yet another Shelsley Walsh innovation, you know.
Exactly. So, in the meantime, from Eddie Walder and myself, Toby Moody, keep in touch with our digital media channels at Shelsley Walsh on Twitter and Instagram, and of course through the Facebook page. We look forward to speaking to you tomorrow, 1:45, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In the meantime, it's goodbye from Shelsley Walsh.
You've never seen anything like it. Back into the road, coming out of town. Round the top of that pattern. Got the car driving.
Absolutely wonderful, and Junior's lost none of his style. Let's approach 124.
Absolutely textbook through the S5. Warm round of applause. And as I said a moment ago, we're back in business here at Chelsea.